Oh, hey. I am obviously I'm about half an hour late tonight because um a number of reasons. Um 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 so this weekend is the Ann Arbor Art Fair. I've noticed when busking it can be um it can be hit or miss, like how well you do as far as like people dropping, a dollar or two in the bucket with, like if you're just doing music. So I try to oh right, this is for my niece. So I try to um have like a few things out that I've made that I am putting up for sale. So I got caught up finishing up this one bracelet here, and of course laundry, as I said on Threads when I reposted about the thing that I'm streaming tonight, and that I had changed the time a couple of times. So yeah, there's laundry, and there was I was finishing up a braided um one of these braid wheel things, and and I know I often in the past I've taken out buttons, the little 1 inch, so like a U.S. quarter size, the pinback badges. I've done those in the past. Long story short, I lost my old press when I got priced out of Ipsy, and while I do still have a bunch left that were packed up somewhere, um, I really don't want to go looking through all of them right now. It is a thing that I do not want to deal with right now. I will just put it that way, because I do not stream to let the internet know about all of my mental health problems. No, I take that to actually I don't really take that much of anywhere lately. Um so yeah, that's a thing that but yeah, I made this one for my niece, and so I just because it's cheaper to get one of those rainbow looms to make them out of the little silicone rubber bands, or I don't know if they're silicone. They're cheap enough, but it says on the package latex free rubber bands. So I don't know exactly what they're made of, but the website their website has a silicone collection, which I'm like, okay, so what are the other ones made out of if they're also latex free? That's the $24 question that I've got. Um, so I don't know. Where are you now? Oh yeah. I've been out of the hotel since I want to say last week of February was when the cats and I moved in here. That over there is their big cat tree. They've also got a smaller one that I dumpster dived before I found. So I found like somebody else in the complex that I'm at, um the apartment complex, just tossed this little one out, and other than the rope, the sisal rope that that covers up the scratching post parts, other than that coming off of like this is so loud. Somebody let me know if this is like way too loud. I've got a little fan with a light on it that I found at Target for like $5. So anyway, other than the rope coming off of one of the scratching posts on the little one that I dumpster dived, it's fine, and it's not like my cats are, especially averse to smelling other cats on things. Um, so so yeah, I brought that one in while I was still looking for this thing. It's it came with the tall, like the 7-foot tall cat tree, and it's got extra bits in it that I don't know where. I'm like, all right, this thing's just accumulated bits over time. Like it's got 2 Allen wrenches that one of them does not fit any part of it, right? And so so yeah, this cat tree is a good 15, 16 years old. It's been through several cats. I brought it with me when I moved out of Best X's place in Lansing. Because his partner at the time just thought it was so old and gross. And this would be the clown lover. This would be the clown lover that I've mentioned before, back at when I was streaming from the old apartment. This is the person who is very inappropriately into clowns. So that's how I refer to this person. And, you know, they kind of cemented, like, why I should never take anyone. Like, there's a short list of kinks and fetishes that if I find out somebody is into it, I can't take a damn thing they say seriously ever again. And, like, I don't mean for that to sound cruel or especially judgmental or anything. It's just like there's that lizard brain reaction, right? Where if I find out somebody's into this very short list of things, if I find out they're into this, I can't take a damn thing they say seriously ever again. And one of the things on that list is clowns. Other items on that list are anything to do with excrement. I can't. Like, and I'm not counting lactation. Lactation is not excrement, and it's like I don't understand people who are into lactation and fetishistic nursing. I mean, it seems a little bit weird to me, but as long as it doesn't cross over with the third item on the list, which is ABDL, like and I say ABD, like, okay, like, you cannot convince me that somebody who identifies as a diaper lover, like, you can't tell me that's not a fetish in all cases. And I understand the adult baby, the littles RP thing, that is not necessarily sexual. And I saw, like, it was on one of those documentary series on, like, Discovery or something, and this on this episode, like, they showcased people into the adult baby thing, and, like, it had this one pair, and I say pair because they weren't a couple, right? Like, it was I say young man because he was much younger than her. He was, I don't know, he was probably closer to my age, and, well, I say closer. I want to guess, like, at the time anyway, like, maybe he was in his mid-30s, and this was a woman in her 60s. And I read up a little bit more about them online, and so it's like, he went through a lot of abuse as a kid, and he just, I don't know, so, like, he kind of, you know, will go and get into this, like, you know, kind of like role play, like, kind of mind when he's at home. Like, he's a really talented carpenter, which comes in handy since he's made, like, you know, baby furniture, I want to say, you know, like, you know, more like toddler furniture, I'd say, right? Because, like, that's, like, the age he likes to RP as, right? And so, like, at home he does, and, like, he made, like, his own, like, you know, crib and, you know, toddler style high chair, right? You know, for at home stuff, which, you know, is sized for him, which, cool. He's a really talented carpenter, but, like, you know, like, he had an abusive childhood, especially, like, as a teenager. So he likes to regress back to toddlerhood when, you know, things, you know, were, as far as he knows, were fairly happy and, you know, stuff, right? And she was, like, you know, about twice his age, and, like, she had, like, lost a child, like, I can't remember how or why. This was, like, years ago I saw this, right? So it's like, and so, like, they kind of, like, and it's kind of wholesome, right? Like, you know, like, he does part-time work because he's, I think he collects disability on, like, autism spectrum, or, like, maybe, like, chronic depression kind of stuff, right? Well, I mean, a lot of people on the autism spectrum, especially with abuse, like will end up chronically depressed as adults. I don't remember why he collects disability, but I know she collects Social Security retirement, right? So like, but yeah, like they just like kind of met, and it's just kind of wholesome, right? Like, like she, because like I said, like she lost a child, and so like she RPs as his mommy and or auntie or something, right? And and at home, like he's the little, and it's very wholesome, right? And I understand that like if somebody has some some emotional trauma, that this can be a thing, and it's not about getting your rocks off or anything, right? Like so like I understand the like adult baby / littles kind of thing, that can be a very broad thing, but if somebody is into it as a kink, then I can't take them seriously. I'm like this is like it's just like no, like the least sexy time of a person's life. And like adolescent sexuality is a whole other topic, like but to like keep it concise and all that, it's like, okay, like I understand if teenagers are attractive to other teenagers, that makes sense. And that's why like there are these close in age exemptions, aka the Romeo and Juliet clauses in most states. Michigan is not one of those states. There are no close in age exemptions in Michigan, right? But the age of consent in Michigan is like 16 plus, across the board. Like there is an asterisk, but it's not for close in age exemptions, and it's not for, like only if you're this many years older than 16, for the older partner is this many years older than 16. It's got to do basically like it tacks on something more. It makes sexual harassment cases like more sexually harassing if somebody is under the age of 19 and the older person is over 3 years and 3 months older, right? So like I said, that just like makes sexual harassment more harassment, right? So that's what the asterisk in Michigan is all about, just to like keep it short. So like there's a reason, like when the age of consent is 16, it's like no, this is because like sometimes like there are seniors in high school who are a little bit older, but like you have classes with each other or something, or like you can be like it's not uncommon in Michigan for 16-year-olds to take or at least it's not uncommon in the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area, right? Because I finished high school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and a number of my classmates would take like half to a third of their classes at either Washtenaw Community College or even University of Michigan, right? So like I know somebody in my choir would actually take an additional music class at U of M because that they had like a broader vocal program, right? There, so like she got like more like advanced choral instruction, right? There at U of M, right? So it's not uncommon, right, for 16-year-olds in some parts of Michigan anyway, especially like in the college town areas, to be taking college classes. And it's not uncommon. When I was in high school, there was somebody in and I want to say this was when I was in high school in Lenawee County, because I did most of my high school there, and I finished like I did my last semester of high school in Ann Arbor, right? But most of my high school was in Lenawee County, Michigan, and the high school I went to, there was somebody in my class that year who was 20 years old and still a senior. He was 21 in time for senior prom. So yeah, he was kind of the village idiot, but he was really popular on prom night because he could get everybody booze legally, or at least he could buy it legally and then bring it to, some after party, right? So yeah, like, and I'm not saying that makes, like if he was going with somebody who was 16, I'm not saying that would make it not creepy. I mean, it would be creepy for somebody. Well, first off, like if you're that old and you're still in high school, why don't you just go get your GED? Like the GED in Michigan is written for somebody who has a maximum 6th grade education to pass. And I say this as somebody who, like ended up taking the GED. Yeah, he was 21 and still a senior. Like he was, and yeah, it's like, so it's like when you're starting, when you're a super senior starting the year at, age of 20, why have you not just said to hell with it and go get your GED? Like just go get your GED at that point. If you still want to be in high school, there's something wrong with you on a number of levels that I cannot even begin to unpack. Like, like I can certainly think of, I can certainly think of a number of possibilities on why somebody might still be willingly attending high school at that age. And they don't speak very well of the person in question, right? like none of them are good. At that point, just go get your GED and you will look a lot less creepy to everybody involved. But, for some reason, it's legal as long as you, do not quit to get your GED and then come back later, like, in the next semester or something. Like, it's still legal, or at least it was in the 90s to, like if you haven't yet graduated, if you are just that dense that you haven't yet graduated your classes, like you haven't yet passed all of your required classes, yeah, there's some kind of like predatory vibes I'm getting from that. Either that, or he's just kind of like not just mentally slow in the head, but emotionally kind of a right? Like like if it just doesn't occur to him, either way, it doesn't look good. Like at best, 40-year-old senior. Oh God, I hope that's not legal. I hope there's a cutoff age. But yeah, like apparently in some parts of Michigan, at least in the 90s, if you hadn't yet graduated, you could be like up to 21 years old, at least up to 21 years old, and still legally able to attend high school. So yeah, like there's reasons that the age of consent is 16 in about half of the US. And, and there are a number of very not creepy reasons that I'm okay with this, right? Because, okay, in most states, like not Michigan, but most other states, there are close in age exemptions where like somebody could be like, it generally lines up with the half age plus 7 rule, right? So it's like the younger person, it's no more than 3 years younger, right? Like in any of the states that I've seen. And the reason I know so much about age of consent laws is because until the anti-sodomy statutes were ruled not unconstitutional on the federal level in, I want to say that was 2005. So 2005, I want to say. In a lot of states, including Michigan, anti-sodomy statutes were linked up, or, also had, additional, also added additional statutes to the age of consent statutes, right? So in Michigan, 16 plus up until 2005, 16 plus for, and I'm using the biological language of male-female. So for male-female couples, 16 plus was legal in Michigan before the anti-sodomy laws were ruled unconstitutional federally, right? So, but it wasn't legal for female couples. So, lesbian couples, as in both are somehow attracted to other women, whether, one or both are bi or both ID as lesbian. It's still a lesbian couple, right? Or, a trans man and a cis woman, or, two trans men, right? So if both partners are legally female, the age of consent was 19 plus in Michigan. And for partners who were both legally male, so, either a classic cisgender gay couple, or, where at least one partner was trans male but had, his surgeries and documents updated to say male, or, cis man, trans woman who had not yet had her documents updated. So if both partners legally male prior to federal abolishment of, well, not abolishment because it hasn't like wiped them all off the books, but pre anti-sodomy strike down, right, in 2005, the age of consent for a male couple, 22. It was 22 plus. You could not legally, be two guys hooking up, right? And yes, Phoebe. It was very anti-gay. So yeah, like that's how I know all of this about age of consent, because, granted, I was a virgin until I was 19, and but yeah, like but still, like as if I were legally male at 19 years old in Michigan, that would have been, that would have technically been statutory R crime, because I was not yet 22 or older. So, and I had, I want to say at least 3 partners before the age of 22. So yeah, in the state of Michigan, So yeah, like that meant like if, right. So it's like in Michigan prior to 2005, so prior to that, when the anti-sodomy statutes were deemed unconstitutional at the federal level, and Michigan still has these on the books, and there are obscure little loopholes where they can still be technically attached to a crime. It's just like that cannot be the crime itself. So it's like if there is, sexual harassment or abuses of that kind, those could technically also be tacked on there. It's just like, I don't think anybody's done that in a long time. But yeah, there are legal loopholes where, since it's still technically on the books, it's just, it can't be enforced because federal level says, no, you can't enforce that because it's sex discrimination, basically, right? There's still like legal loopholes in Michigan where that could be, tacked on. It's just, I don't think anybody's done that in years. So anyway, so yeah, like when I was 19, I got laid for the first time, and technically under Michigan law, 2 guys, at the time, because I was 19 years old, significantly before 2005, like, I don't want people telling me because, well, it was illegal at the time, ergo, you had a crime against you. I'm like, no, I was 19. And according to the state of Michigan, if it was, if it was a lesbian hookup, that would have been fine, right? Like, I would have been emotionally mature enough, according to the state of Michigan, if I, if it were a lesbian hookup, when I first got laid at 19. And if it were a heterosexual hookup when I first got laid at 19, that would have been, I could have done that 3 years earlier and it would have been fine, even if so it's like it's like that's why a lot of older gay people know a lot about age of consent laws. And when I say older gay people, I mean like about my age and older, like often significantly older than even me. And I'm in my mid 40s. I'm going to be 45 next week. So yeah, like somebody about my age and older, you know, and I say about my age, like give or take a year, maybe two, right? It just depends on how, you know, well versed you were with legal stuff at that age, you know, before it happened or even after it happened, because, you know, you want to know about history, right? So like, yeah, there's a lot of non-creepy reasons that a lot of, you know, gay guys and lesbians about my age and older will know a lot about age of consent laws, because in the states where anti-sodomy laws still existed at the time, you know, and were still enforceable at the time that, you know, we started having sex, you know, a lot of times the anti-sodomy statutes would have clauses that connected them with age of consent statutes. So it's like, you know, so like when this is why I kind of want to like give Milo Yiannopoulos some benefit of doubt when he talks about stuff that he was doing as a teenager when, you know, and his partners at the time were significantly older. You know, we're talking like a decade or more, right? I kind of want to give him some benefit of the doubt, because even though he was doing it in the UK where the anti-sod statutes, you know, hadn't really been a thing since I want to say Northern Ireland was the last part of the UK to you know, like basically nullify the anti-sod statutes in 1982. And I know that because my third novel, the second in the mod stories, I've been working on that, and I did kind of tie in the first chapter to, you know, like I briefly mentioned that, you know, earlier that year, the, you know, so the novel I'm writing for my third novel I'm writing, it's kind of weird. It all takes place on New Year's, at least, you know, it about half takes place on New Year's Eve, 1983, I believe. I will have to look this up again. God damn it. Because, all right. Or you know what? Let me do it here so that it's more interesting for the, all right, I have to, do the thing. Share screen. Sure. Let's occupy this tab, share. But we got to go back here and reset the things that I like. So I like it this way, right? There we go. I like it this way. So let's go to Quilio. Oh yeah, I'm trying to find out if Stiv Bator's widow is still around. I think I might want to interview her, like for a number of reasons. Oh shit! Did I cash out a reward, a Bing rewards thing, or no? Oh no, I have way more. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I might want to change from Starbucks to another reward. Okay, that's just damn. Okay, so let's see. What was I looking up? All right. When did Northern Ireland and anti-sodomy statutes? Okay. Okay, that's not what I'm looking at. Oh. Oh, you know what? United Kingdom. No. Timeline. Anti-gay or LGBT laws. Okay. Okay, timeline of LGBT history in the UK. Share this tab instead. Are we doing this right? Okay. 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 Okay, first century. No, 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 no. Scroll, scroll. Okay, 20th century. 19 something something. 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Okay. Criminal justice, Scotland. Decriminalized homosexual acts between two men over 21 years of age in private in Scotland. Oh, that's fun. Okay. So that implies that at least in 1980, 20 years and younger, even though the rest of the UK, even though for heterosexuals in the UK, it's been like 16 plus since the 50s. Contrary to common belief, age of consent laws are relatively new. And when I say relatively new, I mean like less than 150 years old in most of the world. And that's even where they exist. So that's a thing. That is a thing. Okay. Okay. Offenses, Northern Ireland. What the heck? Please stop. Order 1982 decriminalized 2 men 21 years of age in private in Northern Ireland. Okay, so it was 82, right? Okay, so this was gonna be so yeah, like so yeah, like the novel that I'm writing takes place at least about half of it takes place New Year's Eve 1982, you know, so like, you know, before turning over to 83. And but the other half, so like it goes like back and forth in flashback to, you know, about 20 years prior. Oh god, no, like 24 years prior, because this was it goes back, right? So anyway, it's written really I think it's written really interestingly. I kind of was reading a lot of Colin McInnes when I got started writing on the mod stories, and I do still have stories to tell about those characters. It's just sometimes, you know, it's just like I've kind of been, oh shit, when did I publish shit? It's been about 18 years since I first published New Dance. Shit. I've taken longer to finish the second book in that than I initially thought. Son of a bitch. Okay. Well then. Anyway, so yeah, so how did I get going on this? Okay, I was talking about, oh shit, I forgot to set the timer for my laundry, which is downstairs in the basement. I have to I usually like to fold my clothes down in the laundry room, but I don't know. I don't completely trust this computer to like stay connected if I were to bring it down with me. So I'm just gonna like bring up my laundry unfolded, which I don't like. I'm gonna bring my laundry up unfolded, and I might fold it on stream because like that's, I don't know. I've kind of found myself in this weird like niche of like IRL streaming in a way. Like I don't do a lot of the stuff that the, you know, that the typical IRL streamers tend to do, except if I take the stream out busking with me, which which is kind of a pain in the ass because there's, in theory, downtown Ann Arbor has what? Has free Wi-Fi to, people just hanging out downtown Ann Arbor, but it's really inconsistent in how well it works. So I'm usually just going off, my data plan, which is not connected to my computer, but I could try Wi-Fi hotspot. I did that a bit when things weren't going so well this last year and some. Hello. I know. Are you a sweet lady? Are you my sweet little Phoebe? Do you want some slapping? Do you want some slapping? She's one of these cats who loves to be thumped. And I don't get it. Like, some cats really love it. But like when I try with cats like Nigel or Best X's cat Chunk. Oh, Chunk will just like look at you like you're crazy if you start, and then she will like just run if you don't stop right away. But Phoebe will beg for it a lot. Nigel just does not like it. He will move. He won't look at me. He won't look at me like I'm crazy like Chunk would. But hi, I love you. Yes, I do. Hi, I know. Are you my sweet little muffin? Are you my little pudgeon? Are you my little pudgy muffin? Am I being annoying? Just a little bit? Oh, well, that's okay because I love you. Okay. I know, you're so funny. You're such a silly little girl, aren't you? Are you my precious little girl? Are you my silly little lady cat? Are you my silly little lady cat? I think you are. Are you my little muffin? Are you my little muffin? Pudgy little chubbin. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're my little chubbin. Chubby little pudgeon. Pudgy little muffin. I know. I know. I know. I don't know if you heard her, but like if you stop and don't start right back up, like she will like no, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep slapping me. She's so funny. Yes, you Miss Missy. You're a funny little muffin. You're a little pudgy girl. You're a little pudgeon. My friend used to stream with just a few people. Then she changed the settings and had. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if changing my settings would do anything with that. Hi, I know. Yes, I know. You're such a little sweetie. And like as far as like stuff I upload, it could. I haven't uploaded anything in a while, but it's like a variety when I upload. But like usually the uploads are like very much in the like ultra tiny, goth tube niche. So it's like, yeah, I know I've been like kind of like branching out with like the people I talk to like on Discord servers and such with like, some of the more politically minded communities. It's just like, I don't know, when my mental health took a nosedive in 2020 and all that, that's like, that's like kind of like where I found a lot of people who were just like willing to talk to me. And then like when like I when I got priced out of the apartment in 2022, that's where a lot of people would just like be willing to still talk to me. So but yeah, like I'm entertaining like no notions that my stuff is going to appeal quite broadly. So I'm just I'm just doing stuff that kind of like entertains me, and if people want to like come watch, that's absolutely fine. Um, what the hell? I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do on stream earlier today, and now that I'm actually like on stream, I'm like, what the hell was I gonna do? Discord. Really sad. Oh, yeah. When I yeah, like just like a whole lot of crap just happened all at once, and saying that you were sad when I kind of left. I yeah, there was just like a whole lot of shit that just like happened all at once, and it's like I couldn't stream regularly, I couldn't upload anything, either. I mean, well, technically I could. I did put a few things on TikTok that just like, I don't know, but it's like, do I really want like the kind of people who make rude comments on TikTok? Like, is that how I want to, like maintain an audience? It's not like everybody was saying rude things on TikTok. I haven't logged. I still get TikTok alerts, and I have not done anything on TikTok in over a year. I just like, I don't know. I don't like. I know they're doing like they're letting people do longer videos now, which is like fine, I guess. But it's like, is this? I don't know. There's part of it is like I also I don't know, I see a lot of people like shit talking people with ADHD when referring to TikTok, and I'm like, okay, like I have ADHD, and it becomes really apparent sometimes when I'm talking to people, just like you know, just to talk to people, right? Like a lot of people think it's really obvious when they start talking to me about stuff. Oh gosh, yeah. When not today when I went to go pick up my not today when I went to go pick up my meds, but I want to say last month when I went to go pick up my maybe it was a couple weeks ago, because like so okay, I have 2 doses of my main ADHD medication. It's the one that a lot of people are on lately, the Adderall. So it's like I have 2 doses. One of them is an extended release, and the other is a much smaller dose that is a you know immediate release, whatever they call it, right? So but I've noticed that if so like when I wake up, so like I'm usually in bed at 4 a.m. and up around noon. So I have my breakfast between noon and half past. Breakfast is usually oh shit, I gotta make coffee. I've been forgetting about that. The to so like up until I want to say like a week, I got to make coffee. I prefer cold brew. A lot of times even in winter, right? Though, like when the living situation was unstable, um, um, hot coffee would just like kind of be like that warm, comforting kind of thing, right? So, oh yeah, I put the tea towels. Like these are just like like corny souvenir tea towels of like whales stuff, but I got a few of them, and I'm thinking the kitchen, at least the top part of the kitchen, like so there's room for like maybe 2 more. I want to get so like picking out ones that I think will be like really nice. I'm kind of annoyed that they're like that they're each 3 different sizes. Like they're each about the same width, but their lengths, like, so like this one, like this is okay, but this one is like way longer than the other two, and it kind of pisses me off. So yeah, like I want at least 2 more along the top. I might get a few more for the second row. It just depends on things, and I put this on backwards. So yeah, anyway, like I prefer to do cold brew just because it is easy for people who are not always so coordinated first thing in the morning. And I still don't have my kitchen in a good order, but it's workable. It's adequate. I mean, it's adequate for now. It's I do not want to do a room tour with my apartment in its current state. So that's why, like, I haven't done anything like that. I know I did, like, what that? Oh, that's just foil from the bag that I dumped out in here. So yeah, like I did an old oh shit. Oops. I get talking and I'm like, oh wait, there's an order that I do this in. Why is this not making sense somehow? This goes in the recycling. What the hell is up with me lately? So yeah, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So yeah, like I want to say like around like 2018-ish, I did like a couple of videos, you know, like one was just like an apartment, you know, like household tour where I showed off some, you know, like stuff in like 10 minutes or less because it was the old apartment was an efficiency and I got to turn on the scale. Another was, you know, to meet the cats, right? And I'm thinking I want to do updated versions of those, but only after I'm, you know, fully unpacked and have things set up, you know, nice enough, presentable, right? You know, I'm not gonna make myself look completely foolish on the internet. A little foolish, that's fine. I can deal with that. Like, I know I'm a weirdo, so, you know, whatever. I can be a little foolish. I'm not going to be completely foolish. I'm not going to be a complete, you know, dingbat. Speaking of, oh gosh, I was, I think it was the, oh, Valerie. All right. Well, you sleep well. But yeah, like feel free to, you know, watch, you know, the, archive of it. Okay, so as to like why I've got this bag, this is like way more torn up than I thought it was when I picked it up at first. But then after I picked it up, I didn't want to put it like back on the ground and there wasn't a bin nearby. So I have like a surplus of plastic grocery bags. And one of the reasons I have that going on is because I got really into the plarn thing, which, you know, is like a portmanteau of plastic as in plastic bag yarn, right? So what was I going with it? Oh, right. Oh, you know what? I'll just use this. I usually use this you know, it's a soup cup for microwave stuff, but I don't have a microwave anymore. But there's I don't want to get into why. But yeah, like I don't currently have a microwave, but I have these cups still because, well, especially when I was in the hotel, they were useful for microwaving soup and shit. But right now it's like, you know, they're nice little cups. Like if I, you know, heat up soup on the stove, it's easy to just like put it in the cup so I can take it into the bedroom because I'm still working on the front room. and getting that shit together. So it's like the cats use the front room more than I do right now, which I think is kind of funny. And but okay, but yeah, like cold brew, if you're not always the most coordinated person first thing in the morning, cold brew is the way to go. Because how? Because why? Well, you put the coffee in the pot, you put the water on top of it, you put the you put the water on top of it, and then you put it in the fridge, which you cannot see right now because I didn't feel like turning around the laptop. And then you put the coffee pot in the fridge, and you let it set for 10 to 12 hours, which, around this time, which is just about midnight, according to my my thing, I will have nice cold brew coffee when I wake up, and I will have at least in the area of about 4 days worth, because it's because I have a nice pint mug that I put my morning coffee in, and I like it that way. Anyway, shit. Son of a bitch. I got a few more chores done today than I often do, because I want to say Monday I got a voicemail. Granted, I didn't get a phone, or at least my phone did not ring when I got this call. It just, I suddenly just got a, text notification that I had a voicemail waiting for me. Hello, Phoebe. What you doing, sweetie? Oh, oh, I love these cats. These cats are great. And I've had a whole lot of signals from various stuff that I see about and all of that I probably should get a kitten. Like, Nigel obviously misses his little brother. Phoebe misses their little brother. Her little brother. That was Murnau. He was a very sweet little guy, and I loved him very much. And I still miss him. I still miss Mr. Midnight too, but I was with, Murnau was with us for a lot longer. But he was born in foster, so they, a lot of times when cats are born in when like a litter is born in foster, they will get them spayed and neutered as young as the vet is comfortable with. Sometimes this can be as young as 4 to 6 weeks old, which is not recommended. Like for like the best, like for the overall health of the cat, it's best to get females spayed around the time of their first heat cycle. Some people will say just after their first heat cycle. Some will say just before their first heat cycle. So about between 4 and 6 months old. Males, because male cats, much like human teenagers, will basically have their pubescent period a little bit later than female cats. So it's like female cats, you can expect their first heat cycle between 4 and 6 months old, in most circumstances. Males, they, you can expect their like kind of pubescent stage to start, unlike they don't really have like an obvious signal, like a heat cycle with females, or like menstruation stuff with human teenagers, right? And I say human teenagers when I know a lot of girls and AFAB kids will It's not uncommon for, like the first cycle to be like as young as like 8 or 9 years old, which is really concerning if that happens. Like that is in the realm of precocious puberty. It's not especially uncommon. If it's much younger than that, then that's why puberty blocker, HRT was developed. It was developed for kids with precocious puberty. So, these are medications that have been around for decades, like since at least the 80s. There is a but yeah, so like we know about how puberty blockers work, so whatever, like we know how they work. They're often prescribed to much younger children, a lot of times for more years than a trans kid would be prescribed them, right? Like if a if a little girl like has her first cycle with the stuff, right? As young as 5 years old, she's going to be on the PSHRT, puberty suppressant hormone therapy, right? She's going to be on the PSHRT until she's 12. So we're talking like, another 5 to 7 years, right? She's going to be on that until she's like 11 or 12 because, you want her synced up with a kid, like the average for kids her age, right? So like we know how these meds work. Anybody who says that we don't is literally just using scare tactics to, fearmonger people, right? So anyway, where was I going with this? Right. Oh yeah. So like much. So like you can expect like a human, teenager, preteen, whatever, like girl or AFAB kid, right? Or otherwise AFAB kid, like just like have their first under normal typical case between like 10 to 12 years old for their first cycle, right? Yeah, there are outlier cases that are significantly younger or older than that when, their first thing starts, right? But, and that can be compared to like, a female cat's first heat cycle at about like 4 to 6 months old, right? Whereas like, with teenage boys, and other human AMAB children, right? They're not going to get like their, let's say like, voice cracking from puberty, right? That's, you can expect that between like 12 to 14 years old, right? Typically, right? It's like I said, like it's offset a little bit. So, and likewise with male cats, they're gonna start showing their, a similar like pubescent stage. With male cats, it's going to be, like 5 to 7 months old is about the right time to get them neutered, right? Or technically castrated. Because neutered, as we can tell from the word neuter, as in neutral, as in like neutralizing the reproductive organs, right? So it's like this is a neutral term. It's used for both male pets and female pets. It's just like females specifically are spayed. That's usually with female dogs and cats and ferrets. It's full orphectomy, so like removal of the ovaries. I don't know if full like womb removal is included or anything, but it's just like, that's called spayed when it's with pets, right? But yeah, like, obviously, neutered is usually just like the only word used for male pets, because well, like a lot of grown human men do not like, to, confront the reality that, their dogs and cats are getting castrated. Like, but it's funny because you will, um, like you'll see that of course, then again, like there's a different like social, relationship between like farmers and livestock, for instance, because like you'll see people refer to like, like castrating a boar or castrating, um, 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 shit, like, or they'll usually say gelding for horses, right? So it's like, castrating a bull, castrating a boar, right? Like that's fine. You geld your horses. And so like what's the term for a castrated horse? Horse, not house. You don't castrate houses. Of course, that would be funny. Okay, so aside from gelding, WikiHow, how to castrate a horse with pictures. That is not something I want to. That's not something I think. Like the multi-streaming, stuff is going to be okay with me showing off. Goddamn, there's another word, not gelding. Okay. Share screen. Yeah, let's monopolize this one again, and I have to. There has to be a way that I can fix this so that it'll let me do what I want, like change the default for screen sharing. Thesaurus. Okay, so thesaurus. Gelding. Okay, geld. 17 synonyms and antonyms. I don't want the antonyms, but 17 synonyms for gelding. I heard this recently. No. Altering, orchiectomy. Speaking of orchiectomy, you notice that seems to orchid. Okay. Wait, stallion. Okay, thesaurus. View definitions. Share this instead. Okay, castrated adult male horse, especially when used for breeding. Okay. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought I saw somebody use the word stallion to refer to a gelding as like synonymous with gelding. That is so weird. Okay. No, we're gonna change to yeah, let's you know what? I had a couple ideas on what I wanted to do whilst streaming, and I realized that so because I do when I'm out singing as a busker, I do sing a lot of covers, and it's been a while since I've done some serious singing. And where was I going with this? So just because it's been a while, I do kind of like sing along with the recordings that I like, and that's not going to play well with YouTube. But funny thing is, when I'm out tomorrow, if I'm able to set up the thing to stream my busking endeavors tomorrow, like I can't, I obviously I'm not going to be singing along with the thing, with the um, original recordings that I'm working from, and I say original in dick quotes because a couple of the ones that I am, like a couple of them, are technically covers, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that Sonic Reducer by Dead Boys, that's technically a cover that was originally recorded um, when about half the band was in, well, the previous band, Rocket from the Tombs. So yeah, so like I said, about half the band was previously in the band Rocket from the Tombs, and yeah, I think Chia Chrome was one of them. I don't remember now, but yeah, like yeah, basically they brought Sonic Reduced, like he was like one of the main writers on Sonic Reducer, so they brought that in with the Dead Boys. So like I don't think I'm gonna be going. I don't think I'm not gonna be really like. I don't think I'm gonna. I was just like throwing that out as an example of like something I've been listening to a lot lately, because like I mentioned Carol Ayachi Bador, Steve Bador's widow, and I'm hoping she's still around. I kind of want to interview her for some reason. Damned if I know what the hell I'm going to do, but what the hell I want to ask her besides like some like just like being interested in like living with Steve Bador's and stuff, but but like damned if I know what I'm gonna like ask her beyond that kind of area of things, right? And but yeah, like it occurred to me a couple days ago after I so like Monday I went to go see let's see I went to Necto on Monday for Factory, and Vingariad in Cardiff. He sent me the money because like he's he's friends with Matt Hart. That was one of the performers on Monday, and opening for them. Like I got there about the last half of the set by a Detroit band, or Detroit-ish. I've noticed a lot of musicians who say they're from Detroit aren't technically Detroit, right? So let's see. So yeah, first band was okay. Switch to these. Wait, no, is this them? Looks like them, yes. Oh, yep. So yeah, of course. This has got to be in such tiny type I can barely read on like low contrast bullshit. Because yes, we do not like low vision people here. All right. Crune, Crune, utilizes evocative vocals, violin, theremin, synthesizer. They did not have hyrdi-gyrdi out while I went to go see them to create a ritualized horror disco they call witch pop. I would put this like very firmly. Oh, they're playing again locally at Ziggy's isn't too far from here. I can. Oh shit, yeah, like that's like maybe a mile, if that. Yeah, like I'm like Ziggy's is downtown Ipsy, so and I'm like not really downtown anymore. Oh, fine, Songkick, I'll accept your frickin' cookies. Okay, Hemlock for Socrates. I mean, the band name alone, Hemlock for Socrates, sounds like they might be somebody I want to look at. No, I'm not gonna find my favorite artists on Spotify because I have the goddamn printout from Spotify. Or like I've got the goddamn printout from DistroKid that tells me that Spotify pays like maybe a third what Tidal does, Tidal. So yeah, if you really love musicians, you will use Tidal. I will let's see. I've noticed before because I tried doing it before. Tidal. So yeah, high fidelity music streaming. And of course, because my my things open up in a thing differently. So yeah, like I'm not gonna log in right now on the browser, but yes, I will accept your goddamn cookies because of stuff. But yeah, like you can start a free trial right now. Hear your music in the best in class sound. But yeah, like Tidal for if you truly love musicians and you truly want to support them as you listen to streams, go with Tidal instead of Spotify. You're like, yes, I know Spotify is everywhere, and if Spotify is your only option, okay, it's better than nothing, I guess, right? It like it's it will like support musicians over piracy, right? And and while I will not while I will neither condemn nor condone pirating of music in general, I will though say that Morrissey is the reason I pirate Morrissey's music. I will just say that, right? So like I'm not going to condemn nor condone piracy broadly. I understand that it's a thing that happens, like even as a musician myself, and I will say that Morrissey is the reason I pirate Morrissey's music. Like think of all the reasons that can be true for somebody, and they all are true for why I pirate Morrissey's music. Like he is a complete weenus, just to put it politely, on so many levels. But he has like as a lyricist, he is really interesting. Like a lot of times, like the reason Best X, okay, like Best X, like many people, between my age and his, he's about like 7.5 years older than I am, right? So he's a bit older than me, but like not. As we get older, the age difference becomes less and less significant because that's just how aging works, right? So yeah, like as a lot of people in our like young Gen X age group, like young end of Gen X age group, we love to goof on Morrissey just because it's funny to goof on Morrissey. Like just to like in simplest terms, it's fun to goof on Morrissey. Like, and I've said many times, like nobody hates Morrissey the way his fans hate him, and like Best X has only so much tolerance, even for like the Smiths, like even Morrissey, like with the Smiths, before like he and Johnny Marr just couldn't stand each other anymore. And Johnny Marr is the reason I will begrudgingly pay for the Smiths reissues on vinyl. And the reason I say begrudgingly is because, well, Morrissey is still getting a cut. We gotta accept this. But because Johnny Marr hates Morrissey on a level his fans can only begin to imagine. Right? Like, like you gotta make sure Johnny Marr gets his payday, right? So, like, nobody hates Morrissey the way his fans do. And, Best X isn't really he is not a Morrissey fan. There's barely a few Smiths songs by the Smiths that he likes. He's generally indifferent to the Smiths, but like as a personality, he can't stand Morrissey. Like on a level that comes very close to the way that so many of Morrissey's fans can't stand him. It's like, okay, I see what you're saying here, but then you say this other thing that makes me want to shake you. And not just shake you, but like go back in time to when you were a baby and shake you. Because like maybe that would put some sense into you. Like maybe Morrissey wasn't shaken enough as a baby. Like, and I do not condone the shaking of babies. This is generally a bad idea. You do not want to shake babies. But then every so often, you run into somebody like Morrissey. Like, even if you're just like running into him being interviewed on Colbert, which was a thing that happened, and it was like a big, and like Colbert even went on about like how Morrissey made a big to-do out of being interviewed by Colbert. Like, the man did not want meat in the building when Colbert was interviewing him. Like, the craft services table had to be vegan before Morrissey would agree to come on and be interviewed by Colbert, which is just like on the one hand, like I kind of get it that he is that into his principles that that like this is a lot like to like there's something kind of admirable about that, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you realize that this is why, like people think you seem unreasonable, at least and this is like one of the low level things that he's kind of infamous for, right? Like that's one of the more understandable things, right? And I say understandable because, He's also said some things that seem pretty crypto-fashy, and I say crypto-fashy rather than outright fashy because then he'll say other things that just kind of make you think like okay, like you do not understand how this other thing you're saying totally contradicts the previous thing you said, right? Like he's an enigma, right? But like one of the things that kind of just got me to begrudgingly admit that I'm a fan of Morrissey is as a lyricist, he's really interesting. Like, and see, this is one of the things that Best X is level 1 autistic, which is formerly known as Asperger's syndrome. And as point of comparison, Chris Chan will still identify with the old high functioning autistic label, but HFA is for a quick media representation that's I understand why there are issues with having cast Dustin Hoffman as the titular Rain Man, but a lot of people, especially at the time, especially the man that the character was based upon, really enjoyed Hoffman's portrayal of, and I say one of the people, but he's the main guy, Kim Peek. let's switch to YouTube just because like I'm talking about Rain Man and Chris Chan again, right? So it's like Chris Chan, like Kim Peek documentary. So okay, like there's this really good the full Rain Man or the real Rain Man full documentary. So it's like about a 40-minute documentary. You know, it probably was like made for TV or something. So let's see, click share, copy short link, close this jobby, and go back to Restream. And I'm gonna post this into the chat, paste as plain text. So like if somebody wants to like watch this later, like, you know, like feel free to like, you know, like if you're watching the stream in God damn it. If you're watching my stream in archive, you know, VOD, whatever they call it, feel free to like open up the chat replay and watch the Kim Peek documentary. Like this man was like and so like okay, at the time Kim Peek was diagnosed with high functioning autism, and so that means like and that is now known as level 2 autism spectrum disorder, right? And my younger sister was like somewhere on the borderline between level 1 and level 2, you know, like in no small part because AFAB, you know, she was my younger sister. And just like, you know, and there is a difference. So like when people like, there needs to be some some deborking of the quickie on the, you know, Chris and her autism page. And I know they use like masculine pronouns for Chris on the quickie. Chris Chan is not a hill I'm willing to die on as far as pronouns go. So like, yeah, I will occasionally slip up because like whoever the hell I was just like, you know, like does not. Honestly, the best argument I've seen on like, you know, I've seen somebody make on Chris Chan not being trans is from Gibby at lore. You know, I'll just like, you know what? NCH. So like, was it this one? I think it's this one. It's either this one or no, I think it is that one. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is this one that Gibby did. It's the best argument, and like basically Gibby comes to the comes to a conclusion that Chris is developmentally still in like childhood mode, but at the same time that like kind of like Chris is a really interesting case. It's like I have a habit. I don't know if it's a good habit or a bad habit, but every so often I will see somebody on r/Chris Chan Sonichu like describe Chris as severely autistic. And I'm like, no, like you obviously do not know what a severely autistic person looks like. My stepmother, she had two rules. The first one, well, okay, I'll say the second one first. The second one is one that I've brought up a lot. And the second one was, do not, this was for, this was mostly for the guys in AA that my dad would sponsor, right? And that was, do not call for Ray during Frasier, because that is the only half an hour every week that these two, as in my father and I, are guaranteed to get along. And if you interrupt that, you are interrupting her peace in the house. Like, I seriously like saw this woman pick up the phone one time, and you know, it was like maybe like halfway through. And even though it was like a rerun week, right? Like we still enjoyed watching the reruns, right? Because yeah, it's our show. It's what we watch, right? This is like the only time that my father and I were guaranteed to get along was during Frasier. One time, I swear to God, I saw my stepmother pick up the phone and she's like, yeah, no, I don't care if you are on fire. Find somebody else to piss on you to put it out, and you call here at 9:35 after Frasier is over, and Ray will figure out if he still needs to come and take care of your crisis. Like, no, 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 no. You call later. It is time for their show. Just nope, I'm hanging up now. Goodbye. Like, I seriously saw this. But her first rule, which, was obviously in play before, she figured out that my dad and I would be guaranteed to get along during Frasier. And sometimes reruns of Cheers if, we were able to catch them. But being able to watch Cheers was like not a guarantee. Frasier, though, like 9 p.m. CBS on Thursdays, I believe. But anyway, but her first rule was, when she gets home from her job as a social worker in a rural county in Michigan, where it was like in the 90s, when it was like borderline abstinence only education for, like teenagers. So there's a lot of like she had a relatively diverse caseload, but like it had a lot of people with issues, right? Like some serious like home visit ish, like and she was diligent on doing her home visits as scheduled, right? And like her first rule was, when she gets home from work as a criminally underpaid social worker, give her a minimum of 15, ideally 20 minutes to relax and unwind and remember that she is a Quaker and thus a pacifist. That was her first rule when she and my father married and we moved in with her, right? And one day, my stepmother was home before I was home from school. And I've said this in like one of my older like upload videos, like little story time thing about I think it was the time my younger sister drank her own urine to I did a video on that a few years ago because she seriously did that. But like as I explained in that old upload story time, the buses ran like there was like only one set of school buses for our school district, and so like junior high and high school, we ran like we would get picked up for school and then taken home from school an hour before the elementary school schedule, right? So like which like if you understand how puberty works on like a kid's circadian rhythm cycles, that's kind of like the opposite way you want to do it in most cases. But anyway, that's how they did it. So yeah, like my stepmother was home before I was home from school, which was unusual because like it was a pretty standard 9 to 5 job as a social worker. She would leave for work at like 8, get to work at 9. Yes, we lived just far enough outside. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe she'd leave at 8:30. I don't know. I don't drive. I know that's how long it would take for me to take a bicycle into town. Anyway, whatever. So yeah, like she'd leave for work at 8:30-ish, thereabouts. Clock in at 9, clock out at 5, get home around like 5:30-ish, right? Depending on what was planned for dinner that night, I may have already started like snapping green beans or something, right? or peeling potatoes just to like get things done a little bit faster. Sometimes she would like call and say, "Hey, start this up before I get home," right? Um, so anyway, one day she's home before I'm home from school, and her boss had given her half a day because she went on this home visit to, mother with a 20-ish-year-old child with what is now called level 3 ASD. So the previously known as lower functioning. One of these days, I want to stream like doing like some research on Hans Asperger. It's because like I know a lot of people on the autism spectrum. Like I'm ADHD myself. I've been tested. I do not meet the diagnostic criteria for autism. Anything that may seem to, in my case is like where some of the like not necessarily symptoms but behavioral traits may overlap with ASD and ADHD, right? So and like it apparently like AuTHD, so like ADHD with ASD, or like primarily ASD with ADHD as well. Like apparently like that's enough of a thing that it will like throw some people off about me, but it's like no, my deal is just like straight up ADHD with major depressive disorder for that's like and general anxiety disorder. So it's like anyway. Anyway, what was I saying? Right, yeah. So like I have a habit. I don't know if it's a good habit or a bad habit, but every so often I will just like go off on somebody on r/Chris Cansonichu, who describes Chris as severely autistic. I'm like, no, Chris is obviously autistic, but that's not severely. Severely is like this case, which I went off about recently when somebody, when I went off on somebody in the comments about this. And somebody on Reddit even replied saying that saying something like, I should have been like a special ed teacher or psychologist. And I'm like, thanks, I think. I've considered becoming a music teacher. Just because, that's an easy, that's a stable paycheck for a musician, right? Let me go to that comment because that's probably the easiest way to find it. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, here's I'm gonna switch in a second here. So yeah, like please tell me I'm all right. Sweet, I am logged in on the laptop. Okay, go to profile. Let's go to share this tab instead, because there's nothing on my Reddit that I am embarrassed about. I mean, yeah, it says 18 plus, but that's because like I do have some I do have some of the horny subs on, subscribed on main. Yeah, whatever. People gonna be stupid. Okay, I've been on the r/Daniel Larson a lot more. Oh god. Oh god, I'm such a dingbat sometimes. Yeah, somebody had previously commented about how they'd seen a video where Daniel Larson is like punching himself in the head and it sounds like a hollow rock. And so I respond, I wonder if there will be quartz inside when he finally cracks it open, which like Daniel Larson is one of those cases where like if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And I say this because my younger sister, like this is probably why I'm still like a little bit sympathetic to the Daniel Larson situation, because my younger sister, like nothing normal came out of the sperm my dad contributed to, right? Like nothing neurotypical anyway. My older sister on his side, because I've got two older half sisters, but the one on his side, um, she had schizoaffective disorder. So schizoaffective disorder, like I've described it to people as like, okay, like think of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia as like kind of like on a grayscale spectrum. Whereas like, I don't know, like people like try to like conceptualize ASD as more like, you know, like a circle kind of spectrum, or, you know, like rather than a grayscale kind of thing. But I think the conceptualization for like bipolar to schizophrenia is probably closer to grayscale kind of spectrum, right? So it's like think bipolar on one end and schizophrenia on the other. You know, like just straight bipolar disorder, straight schizophrenia, but like schizoaffective disorder is usually like somewhere in the middle, right? And so like my younger sister, let's say level 1.5 in modern terminology, ASD, right? So like kind of on a borderline between level 1, level 2 ASD. Chris Chan is level 2. Daniel Larson is probably a very verbal level 3. I'm going to say that, right? And um like Daniel Larson needs a very specialized person looking after him, right? Because I remember like when I was in the hotel room and Josh was in chat, and I was like showing some little bits from I think the Kusari doc on Daniel Larson, and Josh had mentioned that like he's got a brother who's like level 3, previously known as low functioning or classic autism, and hi. I know. Kitty wants to be like, but what about Kitty? What about Kitty? Is there a level with petting Kitty? All levels are with petting Kitty. Okay. So anyway, and Josh had said something about like how the emotional meltdown that Daniel was having. I think this was the motel threatened to undo him, tantrum that he streamed on TikTok like a couple of years ago, that infamous one. And Josh had said something like how that reminded him of like some of the like emotional meltdowns his brother, who is like level 3, would have, except Daniel is verbal. And like when you notice like when Chris Chan has the kind of like emotional meltdowns, they are nowhere near the way Daniel Larson will have them. And like, okay, to be fair, Daniel Larson's ASD is also complicated by his what I see as very obvious schizoaffective disorder. So like I said, like think bipolar on one end, schizophrenia on the other. Like people will say, oh, he's having a schizophrenic episode. I'm like, that's kind of true, but like like that's mainly because of like the medications he's on that's like kind of outed this to people. And like, while you probably should take things his mother has said with a pinch of salt, because she's not the most mentally stable person either, but to her credit, she holds it together a lot better than Danderson does. We'll just say that, right? So like, I'm not saying is it Elizabeth? Is that his mother's name? I don't know. It's like Ms. Scheimer, his mother, not the grandmother, Nancy. Nancy is the grandmother, and I forget if his mother's name is like Elizabeth or Mary Beth. I know there's a Beth in there. I want to say, is it Elizabeth? I don't know. But whatever. His mother, Ms. Scheimer, like she's something on her own, but and I will say like to take what she says with a pinch of salt, but she has said that like Danderson was diagnosed as like potentially bipolar and schizophrenia as a young child, which as the guy at Sonichu Psychology YouTube channel says, like this would be extremely rare. not completely unheard of, but it would be extremely rare. But he also comes to the conclusion that I do, that Danderson's deal is probably more in line with schizoaffective disorder. So, like, my older sister on my dad's side had schizoaffective disorder. So like, one of my best friends, and she's pretty open about this on her DeviantArt, and well, she's an artist, so she's got a fur affinity page, because that's like, she's not really a furry herself, but she will take furry art commissions from people and, you know, like, post work in progress stuff on there. Susie Bika, she's pretty open about having, you know, schizoaffective disorder, and I would say, like, she's probably like somewhere straight in the middle. Like, if you were going to think, like, you know, bipolar, schizophrenia, schizoaffective is like probably like a range here, but like, you can be bipolar with strong schizoaffective traits, or you could be schizophrenic with like some strong bipolar schizoaffective traits, like up to about here a bit. Like, so that's like why I say, like, if you want to conceptualize, like, visualize the bipolar to schizophrenia spectrum, like, visualize it more as kind of a grayscale, with like schizoaffective, like, kind of in the middle. Like, it's gonna have because like a lot of times, if somebody is like straight up schizophrenia brain, a lot of times, like, their delusions will seemingly come out of nowhere and be very elaborate in the way that they, you know, can, you know, like, describe their schizophrenic delusions, and it's not necessarily going to inhibit how they function in day-to-day life, though, you know, some inhibit, like, it's not uncommon for them to, like, you know, like, need like some more like serious care with that kind of thing, but it's like, um an old friend of Best X did have like some pretty elaborate schizophrenia with the Tooth Martians. I can't even begin to. I mean, granted, it's been like, it's been, oh god, yeah. Best X and I first got together around like 2001, 2002, so over 20 years ago. Like, I would have, like, it would have been about like, you know, 20 to 22, 23 years ago that I would have met this guy and like heard him like explain like how the Tooth Martians work, when, you know, or, you know, like, at least how he conceptualizes them when he's, you know, when his meds need to be adjusted again, or like, you know, before he was on meds, and like, you know, because like, that's the thing, like, it's like a lot of time when you're on the more schizophrenic side of schizoaffective disorder, you need to have your meds, like, you know, regularly adjusted, right? So like, I can't even begin to describe like how he would, you know, describe the Tooth Martians work. Like, if you want to see like how some unmanaged schizophrenia can work, a really, really good documentary that I like, this is probably the most comprehensive thing that I've seen about. I've known about Francis E. Deck for over 20 years now. The guy is kind of infamous in a way, um but yeah, like, probably the most comprehensive documentary I've seen on Francis E. Deck is this one here. Oh god, that's only been, well, okay, probably closer to 4 now, just because of the way that YouTube will do like their like fuzzy you know year, you know, fuzzy time on how they just so let's see. So like he did some digging on, on information about Francis E. Deck. And so like I would say Francis E. Deck is probably like, was probably, because he did pass away, so like Deck was probably like closer to like the straight schizophrenia side of things. Now, it seemed some of his delusions did start with a there was some kind of legal case that he got, that he was involved, because he was a lawyer. He was a lawyer for a time, and he did. I think he did get like professionally disbarred, but yeah, he still used the Esquire to like sign off on stuff when he was no longer practicing. But yeah, it did seem that like a huge amount, like his delusions didn't start, like turning into what they became until this event, on this case he'd been working on that just like went just like off the rails at some point, right? Obviously it didn't go famously off the rails, or we would have all heard about it, and he wouldn't just be this little cult figure who just like, just like went off in his own mind, right? But yeah, like relative to what he would have been, doing at like this, like this case he was working on just like went off the rails, and it like kind of like so like a lot of like his schizophrenic delusions that would have just like kind of been like simmering underneath as like maybe like thought experiments at first, just like kind of just like went off the rails on him, right? Whereas like people more on the schizoaffective part of the bipolar to schizophrenia spectrum, it's the delusions are often, though not necessarily, less elaborate. And I say often, but not necessarily, because it is a bit of a spectrum, right? Like I said, like like you can say bipolar, to bipolar with strong schizoaffective, traits, which is like, and like my younger sister was not only like level 1.5, between like level 1 and level 2 ASD, but she was also diagnosed bipolar with strong schizoaffective traits, whereas my older sister from my dad's side was like schizoaffective, but more on like the bipolar schizoaffective part. So like, like maybe about here, right? So like the first, like the bipolar sided half of the schizoaffective area. Whereas like, I'd say my friend is probably a little bit more straight in the middle, depending on like, a number. I don't know. It's been a while since she and I had gotten together and talked and stuff, but we'd been really good friends for a while. Oh, I need a new water. Yes? Uh-oh. What's up, kitty cats? Oh, you got Nigel back here. Hello, my sweet boy. Can they see you on stream? Huh? Are my kitty cats playing? Are my kitty cats playing? Kinda. Like, he's kind of like technically in view, but because of the low lighting here. Is that gonna help? No, not really. But he's here. He's here. He's here. How's my Nigel butt? How's my sweet little baby boy? Are you my gorgeous little boy? You are. I love you. I love you. You love me. I know you do. You're oddly obsessed with me in a really, really weird and unnatural ways that I kind of don't like to get into on stream, because I don't know. He thinks I'm his husband, right? He thinks I'm his husband, and he gets very possessive about me at times. And it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of weird. And sometimes it's just like, honey, no, honey, you're a cat. Stop it. I know. I love you, though. You love me. I know you do. I know you're my best, most perfect, handsomest little boy. You're my gorgeous little boy. Yes. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, like Daniel Larson, I would say, is probably a bit more on the schizophrenic side of schizoaffective, but probably still probably just like straight schizoaffective rather than schizophrenia. And I'd say that like he's probably in the, I don't know, it's kind of like hard to place him on the schizoaffective part of that spectrum, because like a lot of his delusions are clearly coming from like being manipulated into maintaining them. Like he clearly had some low-key delusions prior, but they are not, they were definitely made worse by social media. So yeah, like I'm kind of still like somewhat sympathetic to his situation, but mainly because, like I said, like I've got my sisters, right? I've got my sisters to compare to. So like I'm coming from a perspective that most people who, like kind of keep an eye on what Daniel Larson, is all about, right? And yeah, I know he's been in federal prison for a couple of months now, on charges of making terroristic threats. And I know a lot of the clickbaity videos people have made are just like up to 65 years. I'm like, there's no way he's going to get a full 65 years. That is very rare for somebody to get a full 65 years for that. And like it's been announced on the Reddit that, oh yeah, he got sent to the mental hospital for evaluation. And yeah, that does not mean that the charges are going to be dropped or anything. That just means that that he's having his fitness to stand trial being evaluated for 30 to 45 days in the booby hatch. So yeah, like and the threshold to be found criminally insane is a very high bar to cross, right? So it's a very high bar to cross. Like somebody can be, like somebody can be like Francis E. Deck style, talking about the gangster computer god Eyesight TV and the secret and the secret surgeries that are performed on people to, that's how the aging process is artificially created, right? Like Francis E. Deck would not be able to cross the bar for criminally insane if he were to be facing criminal charges for whatever, right? Okay, where's the thing that I went off on somebody about what? Chris Chan. So yeah, like I started going off on this topic because I was talking about Chris Chan and how Chris Chan is not severely autistic, right? So what Chris Chan is obviously autistic. That is not the same as severely autistic. Severely autistic would be along the lines of, let's see, when my stepmother, as I said many years ago, in tonight's stream, okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's just go to this comment, and it was see full discussion. Okay. No. Okay, here we go. All right, share this tab. So, okay. Yeah, translating the 1980s diagnosis to 2024 terminology, Chris is level 2 autistic, because in the 80s, Asperger's, now known as level 1 ASD, was an experimental diagnosis given to Dan Aykroyd and Courtney Love, for example, while high-functioning autism was on par with the title character in the 1987 film Rain Man, but without the character's savantism. Chris is probably a little better off than the Dustin Hoffman character, but in different ways. Asperger's was considered diagnostically distinct, but sharing some similarities to autism until the DSM 4.5, if I recall correctly. It's a fairly recent change. In other words, yes, Chris needs regular supervision, but severely autistic would suggest someone at level 3, barely vocal, whereas like I think Danderson may qualify as level 3 ASD. Like, obviously, I don't even have like a proper education. I'm just making a guess based on a number of observations I've had throughout my life, right? So like, likely barely, so like level 3 are are where you see people who are barely vocal, regular physical tantrums in public, hate, etc. I hate to use this example, but think the title character in Sia's overwhelmingly panned movie project Music. That said, the current ASD levels is more of a guideline to describe how much a person needs a caregiver, which I think seems fairly accurate. Like, I looked up something with the ASD levels and like breaking down like how they're defined. So I'm like, okay. And then I go on to say, okay, I have a friend in the Portland, Oregon area who's technically ASD level 3. Like, this is based on their diagnosis in the 80s, because they're like maybe a year or two younger than me. So, but they can live with a degree of independence that even Chris may struggle with, in spite of Chris being at level 2. They communicate with people using a combo of sign language and their tablet computer with a text-to-speech app, and they work part-time hours from home doing medical transcription, freelance editor work for authors, stuff like that. I didn't even realize my friend was considered diagnostically low-functioning. They're about my age, and I'm slightly older than Chris, so sometimes they still use the older terms, because they're really eloquent in text, and they've got an active social life, including legit romantic / sexual partners. They still need someone else living with them who can help manage many aspects of adult life, but they cope with this life better than Chris, at least in some ways anyway, in spite of having greater difficulty in some very obvious areas. Similarly, for about 5 years or so before the mother effing, aka the unspeakable, right? Chris was basically running the 14 Branchland Court household. This is true. Like, this is observably true for about the last, like, from about like 2015, 2016-ish to Chris's arrest in August 1st or 2nd of 2021. Chris was running the household. Like this is not up for debate. Chris was running the household for about 5 years prior to the arrest. Okay. Was Chris doing it all that well? Not especially, and often had to do the rounds of internet panhandling. But one of my friend's struggles is with keeping the lights on, like if left to their own devices, right? And Chris, at least has the, and I word it as in having the sense, but like, I'm talking to Reddit people, so I'm like that doesn't, like, I'm not intending that the way it's sounding, but it's like, I cater my words to like who I'm speaking to. So like, I'm talking to Reddit people. So it's like Chris is able to keep it in, her executive function, that like bills are something that need to be taken care of, ideally by a certain date. Ideally without like like, with like payments in arrears, like, right? Whereas like my friend who's like technically level 3, they have a hard time doing that. Like their executive dysfunction just like completely goes haywire with bills. Um, um, but like they're able to do like the equivalent of like part-time hours doing like medical transcriptions and freelance editing and stuff like because they're able they can do this while keeping their own hours, like as long as it's done by a certain date, and they have like like alert, and like when they get the job they're like sometimes their roommate who like functions as a de facto caretaker in many aspects, but like their roommate is able to help them like set up like alerts to like remember to do this and get it sent in by this date, ideally by this time on this date, right? So it's not a job where they have to deal with like interacting face to face. It's something that as long as they get it done, within this time span, like they can set their own hours to do it. And more to the fact is like, it's kind of engaging their brain in a way that remembering to take care of the bills does not, right? So that's how they're able to do part-time work, but completely just like remembering to get the rent paid, where like for most people they're just like, okay, rent is due first week of the month. They, like me, are primarily Social Security disability, so it's like by the third of the month rent needs to get paid, right? But like something just like does not, that's like kind of like if you were to like use the wiring, like electric wiring kind of like metaphor that people do with like how brains work, it's like something just kind of like short circuits with that, right? Because like remembering to keep the rent paid is not like really engaging their brain the same way that like doing editing and transcription work does, right? So it's kind of interesting, right? Like how like some of these like executive dysfunctions with neurodivergence will like manifest with a lot of people. So let's see. So yeah, was Chris running the household all that well? Not especially, and often had to do the rounds of e-panel handling. But one of my friends struggles, the level 3 friend who lives a far more active social life and, does seem to at least experience a degree of independence that Chris seems to struggle with, because like, I don't know, like Chris Chan is an interesting case on a lot of levels, and but that's me getting like sidetracked on stuff. But so yeah, Chris just does not seem to struggle with like bills in the same way that my level 3 ASD friend does, right? So a lot of longtime Christorians are even pretty sure they figured out the patterns of Chris's old e-begging to differentiate between when Chris needed money to get bills paid versus when Chris simply wanted money to buy Legos and stuff, right? So, these such people make compelling arguments about this theory, and given Chris's history online, yeah, Chris is at least just barely functional enough to understand the importance of household bills, but also not quite smart enough to adequately mask one's tells when one is lying about or at least exaggerating one's financial circumstances to manipulate others into giving one money. So, like I said, like there are some people who are just like way more into Christory than I am, right? Who have just like sat and analyzed like a lot of Chris's e-begging videos, and they make a compelling case on like when Chris seems to be asking for money for a legitimate need, like one case that I think Gino Samuel touched on in one of the last 5 episodes of a comprehensive documentary, right? Um, so I think one such case was like Barb in either in a high functioning narcissistic moment that she had, or just like a dementia moment that she had, because I think it's pretty clear Barb has some form of dementia. Um, like, there's just a lot of stuff, like in how she acts in videos, where I'm just like I know why some people may think that she's either playing this up or out like exaggerating or outright faking for sympathy points, but I'm just like, you clearly have not been around enough people who've been like um, losing their cognitive abilities from dementia, that like I can understand why you think this, but I'm also like coming at this, like I'm also looking at this as somebody who has seen somebody just like lose their marbles from, you know, some form of dementia or another, like a couple people. And it's Barb would be like Barb Chandler would be like, you know, Meryl Streep level like acting ability if she was faking this, right? Like this would be Academy caliber, you know, acting if she was faking this, right? So um but anyway, so yeah, like one, like I said, one instance that I'm pretty sure Geno Samuel highlighted in one of the, at least one of the maybe the last 5 episodes of his Chris Chan documentary, was you know, like Barb had like spent all the money for that was supposed to be going toward like the mortgage or bills on something just like completely bonkers, well, you know, relative to the need to get bills paid, right? You know, whether that's the mortgage or the electricity or the water or whatever, right? And so like Chris was going into panic mode, and you know, like did like a few e-begging videos. And so people compare that to other e-begging videos from around the same time period too. So like, you know, like look at a block of six, so like they look at a block of like 6 months to a year of Chris doing these e-begging videos, and they've got it, and they think they've got it figured out, and they make a compelling case when they describe like, okay, when Chris is going into panic mode because like, you know, for some reason like the, you know, there is suddenly like no money, probably because of Barb's dementia, that, you know, and these bills need to get paid. So, you know, Chris will go about it in this way. Whereas when Chris, you know, like when this like new video game or Lego set came out that Chris really seems to want, um, you know, they will go about it this way, and, you know, just like kind of downplay, you know, some other stuff. But so it's like it's really interesting. um I mean, it's kind of also fascinating that some people are that just like that into Chris Chan. But like I said, like when I read what they have to say about it or listen to them go on like their own YouTube videos about it, they do make a compelling case at times, right? So I continue. Don't get me wrong, Chris is definitely handicapped by her level 2 ASD way more than, say, the Chris Chan rock opera composer Jordan Owen, and that is an amazing album. Like, it kind of brought me to tears at a couple points, right? Um, so like Jordan Owen is also fairly open about, you know, his own level 1 ASD, and like, yeah, he's expressed like being handicapped by it socially in some very specific ways. But yeah, like Chris Chan is like far more apparently handicapped by her level 2 ASD than Jordan Owen is by his level 1 ASD, right? So like I said, like that is like I said, like the new levels, I can see how this works better for a lot of people in explaining how autism spectrum disorder works. And it's like, you know, like kind of think of the levels as like how much somebody needs someone looking after them. Right? So like at level 1, you probably don't need somebody looking after you, but you're going to have like significant social struggles, right? You're like a lot of like social life stuff is just like not going to make sense to you intuitively and all of that. Level 2, you definitely need somebody looking in after you, regularly, but you can probably function about as well as like like a teenager could, right? Like I've been on my own since I was 17, and I've definitely gotten like a lot better at it since I was 17, right? Like compared to when I was 17, right? Um so yeah, like most people at level 2, they're going to be at like, they will continue like their ability to function with adult life is probably going to level off at like, it's probably going to be forever comparable to, like a 16 or 17-year-old suddenly placed in, adult, life responsibilities. Like you're going to struggle. You're probably not going to have the best judgment of this. You're going to have like some, and then like there are also going to be like other like more severe social handicaps when compared to level 1, right? Level 3, you're going to need somebody looking after you every day, like all day, every day, not just somebody checking in on you every few weeks, like a couple times a week to a couple times a month, right? Level 3, you're going to need somebody looking after you every day, somebody with like some specialist experience in looking after somebody with your situation, right? So so anyway, um um okay. Chris is also, in spite of any of her claims to the contrary, mildly intellectually handicapped, aka a slow in the mind. Chris's infamous words for people, um also on the short bus. Chris once claimed an IQ of 150, but this is most likely a lie. And this is evidenced by, or at least this is acutely hypothesized by the evidence of somebody found, probably after the fire of 2014. But yeah, like somebody dug out like old like high school papers that Chris did, which are just complete nonsense relative to the subject, and some of these were given better grades than they deserved. And but yeah, okay. So yeah, there is no way Chris has an IQ of 150. I have an IQ of 157. At least that's what my mother, like would tell anybody willing to listen. And I've done fuck all with it. So I'm not saying this makes me better, than anybody at anything. I'm not saying like I barely mentioned this, like relative to some people who have tested in the same range. I remember it as being at least the Stanford Binet test that I'm going to get into this in the rest of the comic. At least the Stanford Binet child test that I remember taking when I was like 6 or 7 years old. It seems to be a lot of logic puzzles more so than, like testing one's knowledge of things, right? So it's like I think the child tests are probably they're probably a better gauge of one's overall intellectual potential than the adult test is. Like, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen an adult test in quite some time. And I just, like, I don't know. I just didn't really have any interest in taking an adult version IQ test when I looked over it, just because I was just like, I don't like, I skimmed over some of the questions, and it's just like, this just seems to be based on like testing someone's pre-acquired knowledge. And like, yeah, like some of it you can say like, okay, like on average person would have learned at least in the U.S. public school system, at least should have learned this, and this thing in like, like 5th and 6th grade. So like I can see how that would be testing memory retention if you're taking it as an adult. But it's like, I don't know, like memory retention isn't the same thing as someone's intellectual potential, because like you can remember things. It's just like, how well do you understand them and understand the way that they can be applied to, anything from everyday life to, like intellectual thought experiments, that kind of thing. Like, how can this be applied, right? So like, remember, like, knowing a fact is different from understanding a fact. Like, you can remember something that you learned in 3rd grade and never learned, and never had it repeated to you after that, and you can remember that for the rest of your life, but how well do you understand that? Like that's the thing. It's like, so it's like, I don't know, like I understand like some of the flaws that people cite with adult, IQ tests that are written for adults, right? For older teens and adults. I understand the arguments people make about like how this is flawed, like how all it really proves is how well somebody takes an IQ test. But like I said, what I remember of the child tests, like the tests that are made for children, like as young as like 4 and 5 years old. So like children who aren't reading very well yet, or, probably aren't reading very well yet. I know I was I know when I was in kindergarten, I was tested and they said that I had like reading and comprehension skills like on par with the average 4th grader, right? So so that's like why my mother was interested in getting me like an IQ test when I was like 6 or 7. I was in kindergarten when I was 5, but like she wanted to like see if like this would like keep progressing. It's like she finally had me tested when I was like 6 or 7. And like I said, it seemed, what I remember is it was a lot of logic puzzles and stuff like that. And yeah, like there was some kind of memory retention stuff, but like it was another adult in the room with me and it's like testing me with logic puzzles and like a wide variety of logic puzzles, right? So anything from something that seems kind of proto-Tetris in a way to giving you like little like story problems like with math and stuff, right? So that like a variety of logic puzzles that are being administered by an adult who is doing the reading and talking for the thing, right? So I don't know. So yeah, like I said, I have mixed feelings about IQ tests in general, but there is no way I believe Chris has a 150 IQ. Just like that, just like based on everything that is known about Chris Chan and Chris Chan's intellectual abilities in a number of areas. There's no way Chris has a 150 IQ. Like this is either something that Chris made up just on her own, long pre-transition, yes, of course. But this is something either Chris made up completely on her own or that Barb made up to make Chris feel better, like as a child or something. But yeah. Searching Chris Chan IQ, which I've done before, brings up this one page claiming Chris once claimed an IQ of 84, but it doesn't link to a source on that. And even though that's probably closer to Chris's actual IQ score on, say, the standard Stanford Binet test, which is used by most schools and government institutions like the U.S. military. So yeah, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say outright if Chris's IQ is as low as 84. That does seem to be closer just based on what we know of how Chris operates, like intellectually speaking. But then I continue. As a point of reference, the U.S. military requires an IQ no lower than 85. So, like, you can generally, like, function as an adult with an IQ of 85. In fact, like there are people with Down syndrome who have a significantly lower IQ, and who do have somebody just like coming in, to check on them, like, like a few times a week to every day, but like not living with them full time. There's a really sweet internet show. Yeah, the specials. Yeah, this is a really adorable little show. So yeah, like this is a young woman who, like at least facially seems to have Down syndrome. I know a number of them. So it follows this house of young adults. So like they're in their 20s when the show was being filmed. This show is older than the uploads on YouTube. It was previously like launched on Vimeo. Because I remember first seeing this show, like, oh god, yeah, like before Best X and I moved to Lansing. So yeah, like it's just like a really like sweet show. I mean, I can see how some people would think it's like, much like that. There was a really short-lived reality show called like American Muslim, and it like followed like, like 4 or 5 young adults, like each in different cities. One of them was in Dearborn, Michigan, which isn't too far from here. And yeah, like people just like tuned in for the first episode and just thought it was really kind of boring because, like, well, the point of the show was to show that most, like the average Muslim in the US just lives a normal life. So basically, like the show is successful at its goal. So like I think like, like 10 episodes were filmed, but like only 5 or 6 of them aired, and and it was kind of a flop because, well, it did what it set out to do, and it was successful at doing it, which was just like showing that, like, like no, like a lot of, Muslims in the US just like live a fairly typical life that anyone would expect. It's just like, a lot of the women wear headscarves, like, and but that, and they have like really, well reasoned, explanations for why they choose to do this. That, like, yes, it is highly encouraged by, the culture around their religion, but they still, at the end of the day, come down and say, like, no, I made this choice to do this. So like that, like I said, and like the specials is kind of like that, like, it just like follows around this these young adults in their 20s at the time it was filmed, who are, like intellectually handicapped. I believe, like, I think there's like 5 of them that are on the show. Most have Down syndrome. I think one of them, at least one of them, has Wilson's syndrome, something like that. Yeah. This young, god damn it, but get back to the thumbnail. So yeah, like the guy in the center of the thumbnail on this episode, I think he's got Wilson's syndrome, I think it's called, where it's like Down syndrome, it not only, like, has an associated intellectual handicap, but it's got some of it's got like people with ASD, people with Wilson's also have some sensory issues, such as like highly sensitive hearing, and a lot of time people with I think it's called Wilson's, right, will have So like with also like with Down syndrome, there are like some very peculiar, there are like some physical traits to the face especially that are peculiar to Wilson syndrome, such as a lot of times people will have a point to their ears and have like low vision or borderline low vision. So yeah, like it's but yeah, I think like the other four in this picture, on in the thumbnail for episode 6 have Down syndrome. But yeah, it's a very sweet little show, and yeah, like it's obvious that they've got their handicaps in like certain areas, but they they take they still take like further educational classes like at the this is they live in Brighton in England, so it's like like basically the community college out there. So it's a sweet little show. I mean, I guess some people can say like, oh, it's bordering on like inspiration, exploitation, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, they also like they literally had the idea to do this reality show for themselves and film it and put it online, right? Like it was their idea. Like and like, oh, I brought this up because talking about like ASD levels and like yeah, because the parents of one of the young women will come in like every day for like an hour to like once or twice a day, depending on their schedules, right? Just to like make sure everything's running properly. Like, oh, do you need me to go, drive out and get you anything for the thing? Okay. And like help them like get to the store for errands if like, like the bus isn't on a convenient route or something like that, right? So like, like they have somebody like coming, and like I said, but they're otherwise living independently, right? It's just like, the parents of one of the young women in the house, will like come in once or twice a day and, say, hey, do you need any help with anything today? Is everything being taken care of? Do we remember to water the plants and all that, right? So just like that kind of thing. But they're living independently. So like I said, like when I brought up that like I would not be surprised if Chris Chan's IQ was closer to 85 because, well, first off, the U.S. government, the U.S. military will not accept people with an IQ lower than 85. So like that is considered like the lowest end of a quote unquote normal IQ. So like, yeah, the Stanford Binet test is adjusted like every few years so that average intelligence is at 100, right? So like, so like there's again a spectrum. Like you can be as low as 85 and still be considered to be of normal intelligence. It's just that would be considered on the low end of normal, right? And up to like 115 is still considered within the normal range of intelligence, just like, the higher end of normal. A friend of mine and I used to, discuss how the character Peggy Hill on King of the Hill is like a perfect case of 115 syndrome, where like you're just high enough on the normal range of intelligence where you think you are smarter than you are. And I can see that as like, as like, a certain way that Dunning-Kruger can manifest, like the Dunning-Kruger effect, of course, right? But yeah, like I would not be surprised if Chris Chan, you know, got a legit like IQ test. And I would say like maybe a child's test. Like, and I'm not saying this to like diminish Chris in any way, but just because like I think there's I think the children's tests, the way that children's tests are administered, or at least the way I remember them being administered, it just seems like it just makes more sense to me anyway that this would show that this would have a more accurate showing of one's intellectual potential. How smart that works out for somebody to be like in real life day-to-day application, that's another story entirely. Like that's like I've sometimes said to friends of mine that like, yeah, I have an IQ of 157, but I'm still dumb as shit half the time, or you know, like, right? So it's like it's a thing. It's a thing. It's like it barely means anything to me. It's like more at this point in my life, I find it more funny than anything because like yeah, I have a really sharp long-term memory, which isn't the same as working memory. Which working memory is more of like an executive function trait, right? So like, yeah, it's a different kind of memory, but the woman who does the How to ADHD YouTube channel, she does a really good breakdown on like how working memory works for ADHD, and she like gives a visualization of like, you know, think of it like computer memory, right? Like a computer will have only like so many slots for memory sticks, right? Whereas like most people are operating on like, you know, 4 memory slots for their working memory. The average person with ADHD though is working with 3, or like maybe it was like 5, like 3 slots versus 5 slots for the average person, something like that. Like ADHD, like working memory is going to be at a deficit. So it's like that's how people with ADHD will like misplace everything and lose things and like suddenly forget what the hell they were just talking about, right? And find it very, oh shit, I need to change my laundry in a bit. Shit. All right, what am I going to do while I'm downstairs changing out the laundry and stuff? I don't know. It's just late enough that I don't worry about my neighbors messing with my laundry, and I brought my basket with my quarters in the pocket upstairs, so I'm not worried about them. Anyway, but yeah, I would like to see like Chris get like a more like a Stanford Binet, like somebody to like administer a Stanford Binet, like, you know, child type test to Chris and see where that comes out, because I don't like it. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, Chris is in the like dull normal range for IQ, but there's no way Chris has an IQ of 150. I'm sorry. Like that's either something Chris just like made up spur of the moment to like try and own the trolls years ago, which I can understand. It's like I can understand like making up something like that just to like try and own the trolls, but at the same time, it's like also become proven such an obvious lie that but yeah, like nobody's been able to source, and I did like I did source the article that says Chris once claimed an IQ of 84, but they don't source that. So but it would not surprise me if that was the truth. Like if somebody, you know, like if Chris like divulged this in a conversation with somebody that, you know, and that convo has like been buried under other articles of Christery, right? Okay. Doesn't seem to link to the source. Okay. IQ. Okay. As a point of reference, the UK U.S. military requires an IQ no lower than 85, and Daniel Larson once said, I think in the Monkey Man interview, but I can't be bothered to look too deep into it, that he has a 68% IQ. this is the quote. Like, Daniel Larson says his IQ is 68%, which is not even how IQ tests score people. And so most of us on that sub assume that means that he has a score of 68, likely from the Stanford Binet test, because that's the one most administered to children. So yeah, like, but yeah, so like a lot of people with Down syndrome, like on that show I just showed the thumbnails for the specials. So like a lot of people with Down syndrome have an IQ in the area of 8 to 75 ish, thereabouts. But again, remember, Danderson does not have Down syndrome. Danderson has been diagnosed, according to his mother, with an unspecified intellectual disability, has been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and schizoaffective disorder, or as she says, schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, which, it's like, no, it's schizoaffective disorder. So that complicates. So like, it's not IQ alone that is why Danderson cannot live by himself, unsupervised. So like the young adults on the specials, their web show that they wanted to do. I mean, like like when you say that handicapped people have agency in the world, that means that they can start their own little reality show that quasi documents their life adventures as young adults, right? That's what it means. It means they can make the choice to do this, right? So oh, they did a second season. I just noticed this. So yeah, like they can live generally independently because they have Down syndrome and the one guy has Wilson syndrome. So like they're because they just have straight up these syndromes that just have like an intellectual handicap, but they socialize fairly easily. I mean, you can say, oh well, somebody with that kind of disability, they're more likely to be manipulated. And yeah, but then again, like, so is somebody with an IQ of 85 who's signing up for the military, and is, and does not have, Down syndrome or Wilson syndrome or ASD or anything like that. They're just, kind of on the low end of a normal IQ. I mean, that person can be, a little bit more easily manipulated. And I mean, hell, like, in theory, someone with an IQ of 157, as I was tested as I was tested at as a child, can be easily manipulated if there are other mental health conditions that that complicate things in that person's life, right? So it's like, yeah, like, you can make the argument of like, oh, well, somebody with this kind of condition can be more easily manipulated into things. I'm like, yeah, well, somebody with a lot of conditions can be easily manipulated into things. It doesn't have anything to do with someone's IQ score from, like a standard childhood Stanford Binet test that, shows for intellectual potential, right? So yeah, this all said, Chris isn't helpless. Vulnerable, yes. Helpless, not at all. Let's see. As I previously stated, Chris was basically running the household at 14 Branchland Court from about 2015-ish to, I say 2020, but like, I just like, I mistyped. I forgot that it was 2021 that she was arrested for the mother effing. The aforementioned friend in Portland can hold down certain kinds of work, but they do still need someone else in the household managerial position so that bills get paid and chores get done. Hell, before the mother effing null Joshua Moon. And the guy who does Sonichu Psychology. Let's see. Um, he does a really good wait. Okay. Wait, what? 1 day ago, JK. The hell? Oh my gosh, did this is news to me. What the shit? All right, what the hell? Oh shit. Uh, and as I can understand like people's gripes, but okay, like if damn, that really sucks that like somebody went out and like doxed him, because he did a really good video that I think he comes down pretty neutral on Joshua Moon, who I know is like, he's at the same time, um he had this really interesting kind of relationship with, you know, and I say that like broadly as in like, you know, like it wasn't exactly a friendship, and you can see how it was, and like I can see how it would be considered exploitative in a number of ways, but at the same time, like I can also see um how like Moon was, you know, like at one time like a just straight up troll, but at some point it became a little bit more complex than that. And I really liked the video that like I don't know, like I don't know what to think about the old Sonic Psychology Blue Spike interview synopsis. Um he like I can see how that would like he put forth a lot of things in that you know that were being that were said in the Blue Spike interview synopsis as like a what if, right? So like um he was saying like, what if, you know, like this, you know, 13-14-year-old kid at the time was like, you know, like being like, you know, like had like been traumatized and neglected, and you know was like trying to deal with, you know, like was like not quite yet coming to terms with being trans. Like what if this, and you know, and like I don't know, like I kind of stand neutral on like what, and I understand like what that other person on YouTube was saying about how you know, like, oh, you can't just like have no proof when you're doing Chris Chan stuff. uh I understand that, but I also understand like, you know, like if somebody like, you know, say that was the deal, you know, that, you know, like um the person formerly known as, you know, like the Blue Spike troll like came to um the guy doing Sonic Chew Psychology in confidence and said like, you know, like please don't like out me or anything, like it would be like um a really complicated matter on like how much of that is like, you know, like I don't know, it's just so like the way he did it in the video, it was just he presented it as a what if, you know, and it would be a fair hypothesis anyway. If so yeah, like he didn't, so like because he didn't name any names and because he presented it as a what if, and he says, you know, like yeah, this wasn't done in a professional, you know, way, but but you know, like as like I know the Sanchu psychology guy initially presented himself as a as a student when he first started doing videos. Um, so so yeah, it was so anyway, like I said, I found it like he had some interesting takes that did seem fairly like he did seem fairly more informed about mental health issues than a lot of other people doing Chris Chan topics, right? So um so yeah, I don't think he needed to he would have needed to present his credentials for people to take him seriously, but I can kind of understand if people want to take him less seriously if he's like throwing out a $2 dono during a Chris Chan stream, and you know, I can understand why people are taking him less seriously when he does something like that, just because like there is significant evidence that Chris Chan is not a good person. Um, I do feel kind of sorry for Chris, like on a number of levels, but as I've explained to people on Reddit, that it's more like I feel sorry for Chris because like this is somebody who like parents knew that this was a special needs child like pretty much from the get-go, like before starting school. This was a special needs child, and like who was barely verbal before the age of 7, and because they were both significantly older than most parents. Like Barb was 40 when Chris was born. Bob was 52, I believe. So like I think he'd already like started early retirement kind of stuff when Chris, before Chris was born. So yeah, like these were this was a geriatric pregnancy, like on a number of levels, right? Like not just in the sense that like, yeah, an OBGYN would classify it as a geriatric pregnancy after the age of 35, right? Like that's when it becomes significantly more difficult. And when there are significantly greater risks to the pregnancy after the age of 35, right? So, yeah, I know you're all thinking, oh, well, 35 isn't old. I'm like, in terms of pregnancy, like there are reasons it's considered a geriatric pregnancy at that age. I'm not saying that's, like medicine doesn't have to be nice. It just has to work. I'll just put it that way. Like, then again, my mother was an ER nurse, so like maybe my understanding of like how medical professionals can operate sometime is like I like my expectations are probably not the same as the expectations of somebody whose parents were not somewhat how medical professionals, right? So so it's like medicine does not have to be nice, it just has to work. Now, do the doctors involved, like yes, the doctors and professionals as individuals, they definitely have to have they definitely have to be polite and compassionate when interacting with patients, but the field itself does not have to be nice. It just has to work, based on the scientific evidence that has accumulated at the given time, right? So, anyway, so yeah, as I previously stated, Chris was basically running the household at 14 Branchland Court from about 2015-ish to the arrest in 2021. Aforementioned friend in Portland, somebody has to do that. Oh yeah. So before the mother effing, Null, who, like how I got sidetracked on this. So like Null, I understand why that, like I said myself, like in my own opinion, Null is kind of a piece of shit. At the same time, though, I can also acknowledge that the relationship Null had with Chris was a lot more complex than some people seem willing to give it credit as, or willing to acknowledge it as. Like, it was an interesting kind of, honestly, Null was probably the closest thing Chris had to an honest friend or quasi-parental type figure. Like Null was, like I said, like Null started out as a troll, like somebody who trolled Chris just for the sake of being a little turd to this mentally handicapped person on the internet, right? But at some point, Null really wanted Chris to get their shit together, while also benefiting from Chris getting their shit together, right? So yeah, like it's, and like I said, like like the guy at Sonic Choose Psychology like did a really he did come down fairly neutral on the issue of Null, like saying like, yeah, like Null is a, you know, shitty person in a number of ways, but we're just looking at like his at like his relationship to Chris Chan here, and you know, like whether or not this was beneficial to Chris, at least prior the mother effing, right? So anyway, before the mother effing, Null seemed pretty hopeful that Chris was on the way towards being able to have a steady supplementary income from doing her art on commission for people, which is true. Like, this is something very well documented in the various Chris Chan archives of sorts. And if Chris hadn't done the unspeakable to Barbara, Chris would probably be doing that with Null just checking in to make sure things are, you know, remaining steady and okay. So yeah, like I said, Null, like on his own, is like just kind of a piece of shit. And I have mixed feelings on his willingness to just like cut off Chris and just be done with Chris. Like I said, I have mixed feelings on that for a number of reasons. But you know, like I'm also willing to acknowledge that the relationship between Null and Chris was a bit more complex than a lot of people seem willing to acknowledge. So yeah. As I continue, Chris is handicapped, not incompetent. Chris may seem severely autistic when compared to those like Anthony Hopkins, another old school Asperger's guy. And Hopkins has come out and said that, you know, he is like level 1 autistic, at least a couple times in an interview. But OMFG, back in the 90s, so that's how I started this from my stepmother, was a social worker who was once bitten on the job. And that's, as I said, like, this was the one time that my stepmother was home from work before I was home from school. Bitten on the job at a home visit of a level 3 autistic person in their 20s who lived with their mother. The only indication that this person was about to bite a middle-aged Quaker woman with rheumatoid arthritis, who was there to make sure the home situation was safe, was that they were allegedly giggling and mumbling incoherently to themselves, rocking in place at high speed whilst sitting on an ottoman, before suddenly bolting out of their seat, flailing around, and then swooping over, bite down hard on my stepmother's arm. That's at least as she described it to me. And I continue, that is what severely autistic looks like. And yeah, like, there is a big difference between Chris Chan at level 2 ASD and someone who I would consider severely autistic at level 3. Hell, like I said, compared to Chris Chan, Danderson is severely autistic, simply because Danderson has shown time and again through even like, you know, like history of when Danderson was in housing, Danderson is not able to function living on their own. Like, Danderson living on their own is how Danderson ended. Well, a number of things ended up with Danderson on the streets and now in federal prison for making terroristic threats, for which Danderson is likely to spend between 5 and 10 years, like, in some kind of facility over, combination of facilities, more likely. But, you know, like no, like, Danderson needs somebody, like, needs some kind of round the clock care, like, caretaker, like, and I wouldn't even, like, I would only consider Danderson severely autistic when compared to Chris Chan, right? So it's like even, of course, then again, Danderson also does have a history of like violently lashing out at people, like in a number of ways. So yeah, it's just like I just don't think Danderson's bitten anybody, at least like not since childhood anyway. So I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, and I continue. People really got to stop referring to Chris in this way, severely autistic, because it's pretty damned ignorant. Chris is mid-range autistic and a lot more competent than many people seem willing to accept. Before 2021 and the before 2020 and the YouTube algorithm introduced me to the Geno Samuel documentary, I'd barely been aware of Chris Chan since I first met him in 2004, technically before Something Awful. And I invite them to go like find some of my comments about this. I've said before, like I was just like hanging out with some gutter punks in Charlottesville when I lived there for most of a summer, and like couple of them were in the habit of like selling Chris like cheap Pokemon crap, like usually stuff out of those capsule dispenser, vending machine things, right? Like you get the little capsule toy and it'll be like cheap Pokemon crap for, like then because it was like 2004, we're talking like, things were still costing like a quarter to 75 cents, right? Or like the little sticker dispenser things, right? That you put the quarters in the slidey thing, you push it in, and you pull it back out, and the sticker comes out, slapped between two pieces of cardboard, right? And they just like, and they'd sell it to Chris for like between like, $1 to like $5 a pop, so like grossly overpriced stuff that they sell to Chris Chan, and like occasionally like like genuinely trade Pokemon cards or something, or just like sell Chris like Pokemon cards or whatever. But yeah, like basically like Chris was like like when spanging on the downtown mall wasn't making it meet, like they'd hopefully run into Chris Chan at like the game place and like rob Chris blind selling Chris cheap Pokemon crap that they'd get out of like capsule dispensers. And so like and I think Chris just like was okay with because it was like mostly guys with the, like the punk kids I hung out with out there, because of brightly colored hair. So it's like interacting with a real life anime character. At least this is how I'm like hypothesizing Chris was working it out at the time, because Chris' notorious aversion to interacting with men, even like young guys, like we were then at that age, but still it's just like, okay, like maybe that's it. Maybe it was like the green hair, right? So like the one time I ran in, I definitely met Chris once, probably like twice, but the one time I definitely remember, we were like another friend of ours waited tables at this little restaurant on the downtown mall area in Charlottesville, and we were, and so like when the cool manager was working, like she'd like let us buy food on her employee discount, but we'd still like end up splitting like a big plate of chili fries or nachos like 3 ways, right? 3 or 4 ways or something like that. So like we were just like splitting some chili fries or whatever, like in the outdoor dining area, because it was summer, right? Might as well like be outside, and it's like pretty good weather in Charlottesville as far as I remember anyway, like not like super hot and muggy for summer, but just fairly mild for summer. I don't know if like things have gotten significant, because like you don't see as much snow this last 10 years in Michigan. So I don't know, like maybe things have changed since the 20 years I've been there, right? But so like Chris, like kind of just like was really excited to show, like my gutter punk friends this Lego fanny pack that they'd made earlier that week or whatever, and it's like wearing out. And it's like I described the Lego fanny pack to people on Reddit, and the first time I did, somebody said, there's something about a Lego fanny pack that just somehow accurately encapsulates how Chris's mind works. And I think about that, and I think about that comment periodically, like when I'm thinking about Chris Chan, like when like a new video about Chris Chan drops or something, and I'm just like, I kind of wish I had pictures of that Lego fanny pack, because it was as absurd as it sounds, right? Like there's no way that this is going to be like comfortable to wear, but Chris does it, right? It's a Lego fanny pack, right? And Chris is really excited to show my gutter punk friends this Lego fanny pack, and Chris has a hard time recognizing the girl that we're with, and I think it's because she changed her hair color from like purple to like a raspberry kind of red color, right? So it's like Chris had a hard time recognizing her, and Chris is just kind of like talking with the guys, and like clearly thinks that like they're like friends, but like, and nobody really has the heart to break it to Chris that like no, we just kind of use you as a way to get some like quick money when or to like like greatly increase how much money, but whatever. So but we're polite, like, yeah, we're gutter punks, but we're polite about it, right? And Chris is just like, yeah, and I made it, and it's my tool belt, and because like, I mean, yeah, it's a fanny pack, but Chris is still acting very like gendered, so like rather than call it a fanny pack like a girl would, call it the tool belt. Right? Like no, like you're keeping your change in there. It's a fanny pack, but whatever. Like I don't even think I said it. I was just like absolutely stunned that like a Lego fanny pack, right? But then like before any of us has the chance to get a word in edgewise, out comes our friend who's waiting tables, and is like letting us get like like the 10% off on a big ass plate of nachos to split 4 ways or whatever. And she just like beelines out to the outdoor dining, and like granted, like we were in the section like with her tables, right? But just like she makes a beeline from like wherever she was, like toward the back of the house, just like out there, and just like, no, you are banned from the restaurant because you can't keep your hands off the waitresses. And thinking about it, I was just like, okay, like I know I've said it in like when I've commented about it on Reddit. I know like there have been times I've described it as like groping the waitresses at like nearly every restaurant on the downtown mall area at the time anyway. But like the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, like maybe it was something more like with Megan Schroeder, where like Chris would be told like, like, please don't touch the waitress on her arm or hand or something when, like she's taking your order, and Chris will say, okay, I won't do that. And then like immediately does it again. Right. Like, like she comes out with the plate of food and he's just like, thank you, honey, and touches the waitress on her arm like that after she just told him, 20 minutes ago. And I'm using, because like this was like 20 years ago before the transiting, right? And just like it immediately becomes forgotten. Like Chris says, okay, I won't touch you on the arm anymore or on the hand anymore, or whatever. And then he immediately forgets that, that they agreed not to do this, and then does it again anyway, right? So it's like for in one way or another, Chris was getting way too handsy with the waitresses, and they just got sick of reminding the Chandlers, like, like, no, Chris, no, hands, no, away, hands away, not on the wait staff, please stop, no, okay, we're done. right? So it's just like at some point the waitresses are just like, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't do that family anymore. And so yeah, so basically like Chris got banned, and and they're just, and of course Barb is with Chris that day, and it's just like, but this is the outside dining. He's just talking to his friends. Because like I said, this was 20 years ago before the transiting. And our friend is just like, that doesn't matter. The outside dining is, for all intents and purposes, part of the restaurant. And it's like no, if you come up to a school and you're talking to the students through the window, you are still talking to the students. It doesn't matter that you're not in the school talking to the students. You're still talking to the students. You are still acting as if you are within the school when you're doing that, or some kind of simile that she used to try and explain to the Chandlers, like why this counts as like within the realm of like, no, Chris is banned from the restaurant, therefore Chris should not try and rationalize why it's okay to talk to patrons of the restaurant who are in the outdoor dining area of the restaurant. Like and of course Barb wants to talk to the manager, because we all know Barb is going to go there, because this was when Barb still had her faculties together 20 years ago. And of course she wants to talk to the manager. And of course our friend just is like, all right, well, I'll be right back. Like, well, you guys know to like, this has got nothing to do with you. So, okay, yeah, I will go get my manager, and he's going to tell you the same thing I am. So she goes, gets the manager, and then she comes, and when she brings the manager back with her, she's just like, oh my gosh, like next time Chris is here, just like, please discourage any conversation if Chris is walking by. Just please discourage it. Chris is banned. Here's why. And I'm just like, and this was my one time, like definitely the first time I encountered Chris Chan. I might have bumped into Chris like once or twice more before I came back to Michigan. But yeah, like that was my encounter with Chris Chan. It was just like, I saw a Lego fanny pack. I saw that Chris was like, like being friendly with my gutter punk friends out there. And then immediately I am informed on all of this, history of Chris at the restaurants on the downtown mall circa 2004. And I'm just like, okay, like this was my definitely first encounter with Chris Chan. I might have had, one or two other minor encounters, like later that summer that were nowhere near as noteworthy, probably just like something stupid, like, Chris bumping into like, whoever I'm hanging out with on the downtown mall, and, they're selling, and they decide to sell Chris some cheap Pokemon toys that they got out of a machine that week or something. I don't know. So yeah, it's just like, this is my encounter with Chris Chan. And it's just like, there was a Lego fanny pack. There was some, stupid little chatter that just like, I didn't really see. And like, Chris didn't immediately recognize the girl we were with, because she had changed her hair color from like purple or blue to like a raspberry reddish purple, or purplish red, I guess, is what a raspberry would be considered, I guess, maybe. And then suddenly our friend who waited tables, who would, who the cool manager would let us mooch her employee discount when she was working and he was working at the same time. And, and then suddenly she just like makes a beeline over to just like, oh, no, Barb, we don't care if you and Bob are here without Chris, but Chris is not allowed in the restaurant. No, yes, the outdoor dining counts as part of the restaurant. That is why there is a little fence around the outdoor dining area to indicate that it is functionally part of the restaurant. Therefore, talking to somebody in the outdoor dining is essentially acting as if you are in the restaurant. using some kind of simile that I might have completely messed up and like something. So I'm just like, this, yeah, that is the time I met Chris Chan, and it was, yeah, it doesn't really add anything to the understanding of how Chris works or the lore or anything like that. And I don't know, it's like kind of amusing if, like when you consider the Lego fanny pack. I really wish I had pictures of that because, like, I'm at the very least, nobody's called BS on me claiming that it existed at one time, right? like thankfully that is is like, thankfully people are at least kind of, seemingly willing to take my word for it on that, because it just seems like something Chris would do. And like, understandably, because I had no idea who I was meeting at the time. I met them, and of course, like, this was 2004. I did not have a digital camera. Smartphones were not really a thing yet at the time. Like, I think like very rudimentary, like smartphone, like, I know camera phones were already a thing. Like, you could have like a camera on your phone, but it wasn't a proper smartphone. It was other, it was like your typical like clamshell brick phone, whatever. Like, it was a regular, just like, dumb phone, cell phone that just had a camera on it, and you could take like, like small digital photos and send them via text if somebody, was able to, receive photos via text in that way, right? So like, camera phones were a thing, but like, not as a smartphone. It was just like a regular like clamshell or brick style cell phone with a camera attachment that was as functional as it needed to be to be a camera on a phone, right? So yeah, like, there was no way I was going to get a picture of that. I wish I did. I really wish I did, just because it was just so absurd. But yeah, it's like one of those lost relics of Christery that I wish. I really wish I had a picture of that. It was as stupid as it was as stupid as it sounds. Oh God, what's the other? Speaking of, oh gosh, like, there's other like little like accounts such as that people just kind of, like, they take it with a pinch of salt as like, probably true based on everything else Chris Chan has been documented as saying and doing. Oh right, it was the gas station. As being short on no, not that. Chris's interact. Okay, I think this is one of them. Yeah, because this was 2 years ago. I am not gonna click that. No. There was this other, the only first candidate. Okay. Okay, Chris and Money. I think it's in this. The way Chris isn't employed. Oh, here we go. This is the other little like first-hand account, like, sort of like mine. So Somebody says, my friend walks into a gas station / convenience store at the northern end of Charlottesville. Chris is trying to buy. Oh. Nigel? Hold on. Cat's having an asthma attack. Hey, honey? Do we need your inhaler for this one, hon? Are we okay? Are we okay, baby boy? Oh, we're okay. Oh, that's good. That's because I know you don't like that inhaler, do you? No, you don't. Oh, my sweet boy. Are you chicken? You doing okay, hon? Is this you? Okay. 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 Nigel really hates his inhaler, which, like, understandable. I'm putting this thing over his face and pumping the whiffer into it, you know, the medication into it that he's supposed to breathe in. I'm sure he doesn't understand completely, but it is kind of funny because he already understands that after he gets a couple pumps from his inhaler when he's having an asthma attack, that he will get treats immediately afterward. And it's kind of funny because, like, you know, like he'll just like, like kind of struggle with it because he doesn't like getting his inhaler, but he will just immediately just like sit up, you know, like right next to me after it's done, and you know he gets a chance to, you know, and like when he starts breathing normally, he will just like sit right back up and, you know, and look at me as if to say like, okay, treats happen now, Papa. And I'm like, of course, like he hates his inhaler, but he loves getting treats right afterward. And it's helpful that like I've decided that like his favorite treats, which are like the Sheba meaty sticks, those are his favorite thing in the world, and those are his favorite style treats in the world. So he gets those like after he gets his inhaler, and he just, so it's like, yeah, he does not like getting it. And I don't give him his inhaler after you know, with every asthma attack, because like just because he hates getting it, he hates getting treated with it so much. Like I used to with every attack, but now I just like kind of try to gauge him because I don't want him to be like so traumatized by it that, you know, I don't know. He was for a little while just like kind of like avoiding the bedroom, just because, you know, he didn't want to, you know, be getting his inhaler all the time like I was. So yeah, I'm it's been a process to for that. Oh crap. Oh, this is getting late. I should probably feed the cats soon. So yeah, like I'm gonna finish reading this little interaction. So let's see. July 2016, field agent provided the following account of Chris in a painfully awkward situation where she did not have enough cash to pay for junk food at a gas station. Okay, person states, friend walked into a gas station / convenience store on the northern end of Charlottesville. Chris trying to buy $7 or so of, god damn it, I need to enhance this a little bit more. Oh, there we go. That's better. $7 or so of junk food type stuff, but Chris only has $5 in cash. The cashier tries to make her understand she owes $2 more. Chris seems to understand, but is slow to process what to do about it. My friend, who is second in line, picks out 2 ones, says, "Here you go," you know, as in like 2 $1 bills, says, "Here you go," and puts them on the counter. Chris, it seems more out of stupidity and confusion than malice, picks up the $2 and her purchases and makes to leave. My friend and the cashier both object and yell that she has to leave $2 with the cashier. Chris doesn't seem to react. A dude who was behind both of them in line is between Chris and the door. As Chris passes him, he taps Chris to get her attention and says something like, "Hey, buddy." Chris makes a get away from me hand wavy gesture without looking at any of the three of them and fairly loudly says, "It's Miss," and hurries out the door. Chris continues to the car in a half run, half walk as all three of the people in the store watch confused and amused. Chris pulls out of the parking lot, but for some reason heads towards the back of the lot where there is no exit. As Chris gets to the back of the lot, stops, backs up a few feet, tries to turn the car around, doesn't make it, backs up again, and finally gets around, essentially making a 5-point turn in a fairly large empty parking lot. Chris drives past the store again, not looking inside, and finally drives off. And like, wow, like, so yeah, like when I say that like Chris is in some ways more functional than Rain Man, we also have to acknowledge that Chris is in no way an excellent driver. Like, like this has been very well observed that Chris is not a great driver, but like can technically pass a driving test. So it's like, I'm kind of disappointed that the Sonic Chew Psychology channel got deleted because I don't know, because like I said, like I think like I can understand some of the issues that some of the people had hearing that other person speak about it, but at the same time it's like Jackie Blue, what it do? I don't know. But yeah, I think he did a few good, pretty good videos. Like I said, I liked the fact that he at least had a neutral opinion on the relationship between Chris Chan and Null. Like on many levels, I will say that Joshua Moon is kind of a piece of shit. Like this is well documented throughout his time on the internet. If he is not himself a neo-Nazi, he's at least an apologist who has like worn a few edgy jokes like way past like the time it was less unacceptable, right? So I'm like, whether he himself is, of that ideology or simply like makes apologetics, for it, it really doesn't matter. Like both are shitty positions. And I say this knowing that I have been associated online in pagan circles with some very controversial figures, and I will say that I am not making excuses for any of them. I acknowledge the issues. I have I've had some fair enough conversations with some of them, but like I can't, like I can't change somebody's mind, but at the same time, I also I'm not going to make excuses for like the company they keep or some of the things that they've said. I am more than willing to talk to a couple of them if they are willing to, talk with me about things, because I don't think that it does much good to completely cut off certain people, at least within reason, right? I remember past conversations I've had with a couple of them where they've at least expressed more complex ideas than some people have since um, regarded them as, or described them as having. Like I said, I think I think there's some complexity, but I'm also like not going to like make any more public defenses than the I think the most recent one I'd explicitly made was like 2 or 3, oh god, yeah, like over 2 years ago at this point. So it was, it's been a while, and like I said, it's not like I'm not making excuses for I wasn't making excuses for anything that they had said that is within some certain controversial ideas. I was making a defense of this person's character, or at least their personality, right? The admirable things that I'd seen them display as a person, as an individual. So, yeah, it's not. So yeah, like I'm not. Like I said, like at. So yeah, like Null. I understand all the issues people have with him, and like I said, like at best he does apologetics for fascist ideologies. At worst, he is a fascist of some variety himself, and there's this that's pretty much what it comes to. But like I said, I did really like the Sonichu psychology video that he did about specifically the relationship that Null had with Chris Chan, that and he came down fairly neutral on that like, yeah, like regardless of whatever flaws in Null's character overall, the relationship between he and Chris Chan was pretty complex and a bit more nuanced than some people were willing to give it credit for. Which it sucks that he got doxxed and felt it necessary to delete his YouTube channel, because like I said, I thought he did a couple really really fair videos, especially the one about Null. So yeah, like I said, I'm not going to defend Null about anything. The closest I will say about Null that some people may say is in the area of defense is, pointing out that when he was still interacting with Chris, their relationship was a bit more complex than simply, oh, Null was taking advantage of, / exploiting a vulnerable adult with autism. And as I said in the comment that I read out on stream a bit ago, that I ended a bit ago, that like Chris is vulnerable but not helpless. Chris is like Chris is not a good person. Chris has done some truly heinous things that's like, okay, like if people want to go and say like, oh, Chris has said some really heinous shit too. It's like, Okay, but a lot of it is stuff that Chris has since changed her mind on, which it's like, how sincere do you think that is? Oh, whatever. That can be debated until this until the sun burns out, right? Um, who cares? Um, but but it's a when we're talking about like stuff people believe and ideals they hold, it's always going to be a bit more complex than like people can change their minds on stuff a lot, and sometimes like when we're talking with trans stuff, um like the Rogue Internet Man video where he's doing the quickie reading on Chris and gender and stuff, just or he says, it seems like Chris doesn't really doesn't like trans people. It's like, yeah, a lot of other trans people don't like other trans people, so I don't know. It's like I get what some people are going at with that, but um like Blair White has said a lot of worse things about trans people than Chris has, at least like since the transiting arc, right? So it's like, I don't know if we're gonna say that like if you have a shitty opinion on other trans people, this means you're not trans, then like, but like these are people who would like not deny that Blair White is trans because, well, it's like, and like I said, like I said earlier, like hours ago, this stream, Gibby at Lore Cattle Ranch has made one of the better arguments about why he personally does not think Chris is meaningfully trans, but I still don't think I don't think it means what he thinks it means. It's like, I like it also doesn't really like if we apply Occam's razor in terms of probability, it is just as, if not somewhat more likely, that Chris is trans and just kind of stupid. Right? Like it is just as likely for like Gibby's hypothesis that Chris is trans and kind of stupid and perhaps complicated um by her level 2 autism, um has um has an atypical experience with gender dysphoria, which is not uncommon amongst people with ASD and who are also trans, right? Like they don't process gender dysphoria the same way that somebody who does not have ASD would process gender dysphoria, right? So it's like, and yeah, like maybe there's not a simpler way to put it, whereas like Gibby's hypothesis is, oh, Chris is like mentally, like in many ways still, a child, and because being a man doesn't fit, being a woman is, somehow more logical than admitting that you're. And I'm like, okay, I mean, at least he put more thought into it than simply Chris is too stupid to, realize they're not trans. So I guess, points to Gibby for that. Um, but like I said, like with comparing with all the other trans people I've known and all of that, which has been a lot because I am going to be 45 next week. In my experience, it's just as likely that Chris is trans and just kind of stupid. And, and because of her ASD, has an atypical experience of gender dysphoria. So yeah, like Yeah, I'm not perfect. I don't know. Anyway, it's about oh god, I've been going on longer than I thought I would, and I do know that the cats want me to make dinner. So I'm gonna log off. I wanted to get other things accomplished with tonight's stream, but I realized coming into it that I you know it's not an ideal situation for me to like do some of the rehearsal, especially with some of the um, stuff. So I don't know. I'll figure out if I'm gonna be able to stream from downtown at the Ann Arbor Art Fair tomorrow whilst busking, even if for a little bit. Um, but yeah. So I will I will Oh shit, I'm gonna be 45 on Monday. So yeah, I will see you all when I come back to stream. At the very least, I am thinking I'll do a birthday stream. I know Kel Doge has, kind of like gently encouraged me to do that and suggested he'd I think he and they, right, for Kel Doge, uh said that he'd send people my way to like throw birthday monies at me. So at the very least, I will be doing some kind of streaming on Monday and stuff like that. Okay, I'm gonna make the cats their dinner, watch some television, and take a shower and get to bed, and hopefully get downtown tomorrow with at least some time for. Oh shit! I need to change my laundry out too. Son of a bitch. Okay. Anyway. Um. Be sure to stay hydrated. Take your meds if you need them, and since you're watching me, you probably do. Otherwise, take good care of yourself. Take very good care of yourselves, and have exactly the kind of day you deserve.